And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. Of course, it's Wednesday with the Finest Unfiltered. It's hump day and more contact coming from New York City. So, of course, Zohran Mamdani promised lower rent. You never saw that. You sure as hell you don't see it right now. Promised free grocery stores. You didn't see that either. But what you do see now is an open street market under Zohran Mamdani. So things are just keep getting better and better. Welcome to New York City, the place of just complete chaos and a clown show. So Zohran Mamdani Street Pharmacy. Johnny did a video the other day, and you showed what's going on in the streets and different supplements that they're selling on the streets in the open market. So let's jump right into it. Marlon, good morning. John, good morning. Good morning to our friends and listeners. Chat's already live. So good morning, everybody. John, let's jump into it, brother.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to be discussing the rise in illegal vending in New York City. We're going to be talking definitely about Mamdani Street Pharmacy, as I like to call it, the Mamdani Five-Finger Pharmacy. Definitely get into that. We're going to talk about the incident that occurred at 26 Fed Plaza, and we're going to talk about Kaz Daughtry's new position. Probably a couple other things in there we'll throw in there, but I think those are the main topics. I got a lot of pushback on that video. A lot of people, it's always been this way in New York, bro. You're not even from New York, blah, 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 blah. You know, all this garbage. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm very familiar with Canal Street. I'm very familiar that we've always had illegal vending down there and in other parts of downtown Manhattan, like along Broadway, in select spots. And I'm also aware that I've never seen it to the level that I've seen it at recently. I honestly was, when I was in New York, I was there for a month. Every time I was in Manhattan, I kept thinking, I don't even know how you could get this under control at this point, because there's illegal immigrants everywhere. And I'm comfortable saying that because I'm 100% positive they're not citizens of the United States. There are illegal immigrants everywhere selling goods, absolutely everywhere. Counterfeit goods, we don't have the DVD girl anymore, right? You don't get that no more. But remember that we always had that in New York City. You don't have that, but we had the counterfeit goods everywhere. Getting off the ferry, it's like I don't even know how many illegal vendors are sitting right there selling unlicensed fruit, selling food, selling all of these things that should be regulated, is regulated. And for some reason, our regular businesses are being regulated and they're not. But the one thing that I've never seen on the streets of New York City, other than the fact that today it's everywhere, it's not just downtown Manhattan, it's the whole of Manhattan. There's illegal immigrants everywhere selling goods everywhere, all along the streets, all along businesses. But the other thing I'll say that I never saw is I never saw an open air pharmacy before, ever. I've never saw anyone selling Lucy's when it comes to pills. I've never saw someone selling Pepto-Bismol out in the sun. I've never, ever seen that, ever. So if anybody's in here and you've ever seen anyone selling medicine or vitamins out there in the open in New York City, please let me know. Because when I saw it, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, what is this? How do you, like, all right, you could get away with selling a couple of purses or a couple of sunglasses. You have it on a blanket and you fold it up and you pick it up and you walk away. How do you get away with setting up a table and selling medicine on New York City streets? I mean, like, come on. And everyone's like, oh, you're blaming Mamdani. Look, yeah, I blamed Eric Adams when he was the mayor too. Who else should I blame? I blame the current city council, just like I blame the city council under Adams. Just like I blame this commissioner, I blame the last police commissioner. Who should we hold accountable? Like, it's sick, dude. What's up, Mark?
Yo, good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Yeah, I mean, I've seen guys selling 1 or 2 Advil bottles before, but I've never seen it in the quantity we're seeing in that video. You know, but I think those are all symptoms of when you import the third world, and you're slowly becoming the third world here. So I I don't think. By the way, I don't think that's going to be the first video we ever see of somebody selling all these pharmaceuticals on the street. Because again, you know, if you go to a lot of these pharmacies, they've locked up most of their items behind a glass cage or the partition now, and that's because of all the thefts that have happened there. So I'm sure you're going to start seeing more of this from as the proceeds of all these thefts. So I don't think that's the last time we're going to see any of that. But yeah, it's a third world, and it's kind of arrived in New York City. Morning, Eric.
Good morning, brother. You know, I think to me, what's interesting also is I'm pretty sure in the Zohar Mamdani, and I've forgotten exactly what the name is, but they created some office for administrative services to help people navigate permits when it comes to vending. Supposed to be an easier process than it was before. Because, I mean, when I was growing up in New York City, John Mullen, you probably remember, it was almost impossible to get a street vending license. And veterans were supposed to be first priority. But it seems it's completely the opposite right now. And on the Zohar Mamdani, there's supposed to be a campaign to make it easier for people to navigate getting permits. And the reason why was always to protect the quality of life in New York City, right? To make sure that people have proper background. But seeing an open market like this is just completely disgusting. To me, this is a good indication of where New York City is at right now. So how can we talk about historic lows with crime, but yet we have an open market in the street? And some people say, well, who cares? They're just selling items, right? But they're hurting the local businesses right now. They're hurting CVS, Walgreens. They're hurting the mom and pop drugstores that are selling items when you could buy this on the street probably for half the price. Who knows what price is? In my opinion, most likely they're stolen goods or they're probably counterfeit goods. I mean, you're probably buying placebos. You don't know what you're buying. So vending is important. It's an important part of permits, making sure that we have people that are properly identified, background checks, that people aren't just given vending licenses. I mean, as I said before, and John, you may know because we often talk about it, your father was a vet. Especially combat vets were supposed to be the first people to have an opportunity to get a vending license. Years ago, it was virtually almost impossible to get one. It was extremely difficult. And now, look, this is just insane. We don't know where most of these people are from. We don't know what their background is. We can't just say they're just, illegals that are trying to survive in this country. I mean, look at this. Are they paying taxes on this? I highly doubt it. Is this stuff properly checked by the FDA? Who knows? If they're counterfeit goods, who knows what you're getting? So this is, to me, this is a major problem. We see the quality of life going on in New York City. And quality of life is a huge indication of where crime is at and what it's like to be an everyday New Yorker. Look at this. It's funny. We laugh at it, but it's absolutely disgusting.
No, it's ridiculous. And so in my video, I was like laughing about it. I was like kind of joking around about it. And I said, look how great it is. They're bringing you like cheaper medicine, and people and I said, stolen from your local pharmacy, and people are literally responding, how do you know they didn't buy it wholesale? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't know what part of Milwaukee or Ohio you're from, but I guess you're probably from the part where they have the dialogue unit, the policing, because I mean, definitely don't join the NYPD. I hope you're not a detective, which I guess qualifications aren't that great today to be a detective. But I was like, are you serious? Like, these are stolen goods sitting out there. And if they're not stolen, they're more than likely counterfeit. The other thing is a lot of these things, although they're sold over the counter, are still regulated. So like if a pharmacy, let's say if Walgreens or your mom and pop pharmacy was to do this, they would be hit with thousands of dollars in fines and would potentially lose their license to sell medicine. Who's this guy selling this item? We have no idea. And it's funny, like my father at one point approached me. He's like, hey, do you want to start a vending thing? I could get the license. You could run it. I just got to sit there. I was like, what do you mean you got to sit there? He's like, I have to be there. Like, you can't vend it without me because you have to be a combat vet. And I'm like, well, that's not a sustainable business for me. I'm like, what happens when you drop that? You know what I mean? I was like, I can't do that. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you know what I mean? And he's
I
like,
need you to live forever.
yeah, I was like, I can't, what am I? I was like, it's not a bad idea. But, I remember for years and years and years, we had a peddler's unit. We had a counterfeit trademark unit, right? Right. We had all these units that dealt with this, mainly turning out of Lower Manhattan or Manhattan South, Lower Manhattan, Manhattan South. And they dealt with this. And I'm not kidding, dude. I was literally like, I don't even know how you could get this under control at this point. You would have to literally start a unit and work areas, and it would be like, what is that game where all the ducks are popping up? And like, because, like you're just hitting the ducks because
whack-a-mole.
it would be like whack, because you're not going to be able to stop it because there's so many illegal vendors at this point because we didn't keep it under control. Right. And that's something that we always talk about on the show, is like that. If you want to get things under control, there has to be consistent enforcement, and people have to understand there's going to be consequences for their action. But today, there's zero consequences for this. The only people facing consequences today in New York City is if you're a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen or a business owner. Like, you're the only person that has to worry about any of this. Like, anybody else on the streets of New York here illegally committing crimes, they're not really held accountable for much. The people that are following the law, the people that are paying the bills, the people that are making the wheels spin, the evil landlord, those evil guys, the Bolsheviks taught us how evil they were and what should happen to them. All of those evil people, we all have the consequences to play. The guy that, God forbid you go out on the streets of New York and you have a legally owned, legally registered, and legally insured vehicle. You're going to be held responsible. You're going to be accountable for all the red light cameras, all the congestion. You're going to pay for all this. And at the end of the day, you're going to be deemed a super speeder while you're going to watch people on vehicles that should be registered and insured that aren't, blowing these lights, running people over on e-bikes, and there's zero accountability. There is a near zero enforcement in this type of work now. The only type of enforcement you will see by this is theater. We called it out time and time again with Kaz Daughtry, where they would just go down there, film some content, chase away a few vendors, and boom, they'd be back. And even though they were hitting that one area in Canal Street that's famous, that Nick Shirley kept going to, there's thousands of vendors all over the streets of New York. There was no competent plan on how to stop this, and there's still no competent plan today. And I personally think that this type of behavior is being encouraged. And I think Eric Adams encouraged it, and I think Zohran Mamdani's encouraging.
Well, it's not just those two. All of society is encouraging it now, where rules are for the laws are for the law-abiding right now. Okay. And those are the only suckers that are getting punished for it. Look, I mean, you look at the scamdemic again. You follow the rule, you took the shot, right? The bogus rule, okay, the illegal mandate. You took the shot, and now what do you got for it? Well, look, they try and taking away your health care, and some of you are already suffering the adverse consequences. So you were the suckers who follow the rules. And if you didn't follow the rules, what did you got a fake card, you faked getting the vax, and what happened to you? Nothing. You're fine right now. Okay. So the laws are for the law abiding. Okay. And that's another symptom of the third worldification of New York City. In a third world country, who really follows the law? I mean, on the surface, it seems on the surface people follow it, but really, when the doors are closed, when the government isn't looking, everybody's breaking the rules, because essentially you have to break the rules in order to survive. If you don't break the rules in like Cuba or to be honest, we're kind of running out of countries in the world that are really like, really in that state. I mean, if you don't follow, if you follow the rules in Cuba, you're probably going to starve to death. If you don't pay off somebody, find some black market to get your stuff, you're gonna starve. Or you're gonna live even in even worse conditions than you already are. So we're in a third world now, and if you're following the rules, you're gonna be one of these suckers.
So my question here is this: where do we draw the line? Zohran Mamdani's campaign with the administration of social services to make it easier for people to navigate street vending licenses, and also there was a vote. I'm trying to remember. There was a vote by city council to have some type of division for this, also to make it easier for people. Believe it or not, I think Eric Adams actually vetoed it, but it went through anyway. So where do we draw the line between allowing people to have jobs, but also protecting the public? Because most of these people that are actually running these vending locations, you can see, are just completely illegals. So there's no background check. And so KB in New York City brings up a great point. Google Tylenol murders, right? Because Zohran Mamdani is supposed to serve the people, make sure that the people are protected as much as he can. So I think that's a great point. And I watched that documentary, KB. That's a great point. In Chicago, before 1982, there was no packaging and making sure that nothing was tampered and everything was properly sealed. So in Chicago, they had 7 deaths related to Tylenol that was tampered with. And so that changed a lot. But in this case right now, how do we know those bottles are not tampered with? How do we know they're actually not counterfeits and copies of actual medicines or supplements? And what if they're tampered with? So how is Zohran Mamdani and the city council that come out with these laws to make it easier for people to actually street vend, but at the same time, how are they protecting the public? And they're not, because none of this is regulated. First of all, the people that are running these vending locations are not even regulated themselves. Most of them appear to be illegal military age males. Some of them look like they're Somalis. We know they're definitely not legal. So there's no background check. It's absolutely ridiculous. So KB, I think you bring up a great point with those Tylenol murders. Anyone has an opportunity, Google that, as KB says, or look at that documentary. I think it was on Netflix, and to see how those murders actually changed how the FDA regulated medicine bottles. So I think this is it's a joke. It looks funny, but it's far more serious. The implications and the ramifications that this could have is far more serious than people actually understand. So to say that quality of life is so great with Zohran Mamdani, people voted for someone that didn't even get what they wanted. You didn't get low rent. You didn't get free grocery stores. You have an open market, a street market. It looks absolutely ridiculous. And I've been to third world countries, and that looks worse to me. That looks absolutely horrific. I mean, we see what happened in Roosevelt Avenue in Queens. We see what's going on with the street vending. And exactly what John and Marlon said, you're going to see political theater. That's all you're going to see, political theater. They'll shut some of this down. It'll be in key locations, probably in Canal Street, which is not even relevant to what's going on, because most of this stuff is happening in Queens. So under Zohran Mamdani, life isn't better. If anything, it's actually far worse.
Yeah, and most of this is occurring in New York City. Most of what you're seeing on the internet and on the news, you see from New York. You see from Manhattan. When I say New York City, I mean Manhattan. But if you go to the outer boroughs, I mean, the rise of all of these illegal vending has exploded there as well. So imagine that it's happening in the epicenter of the world. So I always used to laugh about how they would attempt to keep Manhattan clean and not give a shit about any of the other boroughs. Like, let's make Manhattan look like everything's great here. And so the tourists and the fancy rich people could be like, yeah, everything's safe. We don't even need cops. I don't even know what we have cops for here. Like, I don't know why they're doing this. And but that stopped. Now we don't care. If you see it, that it's a mess in Manhattan, it's much worse in the outer boroughs, I think. And when you look at the outer boroughs, particularly like Queens, particularly in the Roosevelt area, I mean, forget open air pharmacy. You have open air drug markets and you have open air prostitution, and no one's saying a word about it. I mean, and again, this department, this isn't new. None of this is new. None of these issues that New Yorkers are facing today have just popped up. These are issues from the foundation of this city, from the foundation of the NYPD in 1845. They were dealing with illegal markets. They were dealing with prostitution. They were dealing with drugs. They were dealing with counterfeiting. They were dealing with a lot of other different type of gambling schemes and illegal gambling and racketeering. Everything that we're dealing with, we've been dealing with, and yet we just let it slide back. We let it slide backwards because we're going to pretend like these are new issues and we don't know, and it's so complex that we can't solve them today. It's an absolute joke, and it's always going to be, well, we can't lock our way up out of this. We can't arrest our way out of this. We can't enforce our way out of it. And it's like, well, you know what? Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg proved that you absolutely could. So, I don't know what anyone's talking about when they say that. I really don't. And I think you're just watching, and now you're beginning to accept a diminished product in New York City. You're willing to accept your tax money going absolutely nowhere, because I personally think that every issue that we're facing, it's the same problem. It's the same problem. It's incompetence, it's inexperience, and it's unwillingness. And it's literally everything that's happening today. So like, there'll be no focus on this. And if there is, like I said, it'll be like a public relations campaign and a public relations spin that they'll throw money at, and some of their friends will get some money and some fancy contracts. But the issues will continue to not only persist, they'll continue to grow, because we literally have the most incompetent, inept people running this city, are elected in this city, and are appointed by the idiots that you elected. I'm sorry. It's just these are not hard things to solve. They're not. These are not hard issues to solve. Again, New York City flooded again yesterday. Wonder why? Oh, let's blame climate change. Let's not blame the idiots you elected and their appointed officials that they put in charge of the agencies that are responsible to keep your infrastructure running and responsible to stop things like flooding, stop this illegal vending, stop people from feeling that they could do anything and everything, and maybe something will change. But the way I see it, I think this is just going to get completely worse. Much, much worse.
Well, I don't think it's easy to stop. And I think that every day that they let it go on, becomes harder to put an end to. Because here's the thing: you already have all these illegals in this city now, and what do they do for a living? You got all these people, low skilled people. A lot of them, some of them are older too, or middle aged. Where they're gonna work? Where are the jobs for them? They're gonna have to. That money we've been giving them is gonna dry up. And they're gonna have to do something for a living. So that's why you're seeing more prostitutes by Roosevelt walking the street, in Elmhurst too. You're seeing more of these vendors. And by the way, like John said, you're seeing these vendors. I've seen them around 86th Street too. They're not the same vendors from Canal Street, but I'm seeing people selling things on the sidewalk around 86th Street too, in Brooklyn. So and we've seen plenty of videos of them doing it in all over the Bronx as well. So it's not just it's not just Canal Street, it's all over. So you have all these illegals here, where they're gonna work, where they're gonna get money to feed themselves. Their only way to survive is to start doing these things. And I mean, consequences for them, I just don't think, government isn't going to come down on these people, just because of the desperation of their circumstances. So the question is, how do we, go about solving this? And I think the answer is that it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to you have to take baby steps. But the problem is that they're ignoring it right now. They're ignoring it right now, and it's becoming an even bigger problem. And I see there's been legislation being pushed right now to allow illegals to stay to get some sort of amnesty if they work for the farms. I believe there's also a push if they work for certain other industries. So the thing is, we need cheap labor for these industries. And in order to get the cheap labor, the only way to get it is through the illegal migration. So it's like how do we fully put a stop to it? And if we've talked about it before, guys, like these ICE raids you're seeing, we've said before how they're not really gonna even put a dent in the alleged 14 million illegals in this country. So if you think that's doing anything to it, you're wrong. It's a massive problem.
Well, this is a major problem. Forget about quality of life. The fact that it's just a complete eyesore. I mean, if you have a location there, a business, it's an eyesore for your potential pedestrian business. It's just an eyesore complete. If you live there, it's another eyesore. But even beyond that, it's politicians like the ones that we have right now that create more harm. Because and throughout history, most politicians don't create laws as preventive measures. Most of the laws that actually come out of legislation are after a tragedy happened or something, that a knee-jerk reaction. And so what knee-jerk reaction could come out of this, right? Even when it comes to the Tylenol murders, those bottles that had eventually had to be regulated, legislation that came out was because of a tragedy, because of someone killing people by tainting Tylenol in bottles. So what type of tragedy could come out of this? Absolutely. What if someone thinks it's innocent and they're buying vitamins on the street or some type of just a diet supplement? And what if it turns out they're tainted and actually causes some due harm? Will the politicians then have a knee-jerk reaction and create some legislation to actually stop that from going further? Why do we have to wait for some tragedy to happen? So I think this is absolutely ridiculous. It's irresponsible. And I spoke to numerous people about this, and they're like, Americans, don't want too much regulation. They have a right to live the way they want. But we're not talking about Americans here. The people that are selling that stuff on the street, they're not even Americans. They're not even citizens. And some people said, well, you got to be pretty stupid to buy that stuff on the street. Well, not necessarily. If you are, in that third world country, third world culture, and if you're extremely poor and you are here illegally, maybe with good intentions, that might be your only recourse, is to buy what you can at the lowest price, even in that market. So for some people, it might just be desperation, but there are other avenues to take. So this is absolutely ridiculous. Also, the effect on the economy that this has could really hurt New York City, right? Because businesses have to actually increase their prices to actually compare with these markets here and to actually have regulation. So I think this is just a disaster on all fronts. So not only is quality of life being affected by Zohran Mamdani and even prior Eric Adams and prior to that former mayor Bill de Blasio, but the economy, small business is a terrible place to be right now. If you can buy Lucy's on the street right in front of a business, that's a major problem. I mean, Daniel Pantaleo did exactly that in 2014 and responded by the NYPD for quality of life issues to stop Eric Garner from selling Lucy's at one location. Now you have an entire open street market. So I hope we don't send our police officers there to stop this. And God forbid we have another Daniel Pantaleo over, it's just Lucy's. Is it just Lucy's? Is it just bottles of diet supplements? Or is this a bigger problem? And yes, it's a bigger problem.
Yeah. See, look, I personally think it's easy. I think it's easy. I think that all of this has been politically created. And I think that the solutions aren't really hard. You just have to be, they're just tough solutions. And I just think as a society, we're just too weak. As a nation, we're too weak. We're a feminine society. We're a feminine country. We're a feminine city. And that's the problem here, is nobody wants to talk about the issue at hand. You hone in on, Marlon, there's illegals here. Why are there illegals all over the streets of New York? Why are there illegals that we're spending billions of dollars a year to give them benefits, to give them health care, and to give them housing, and to educate their kids? Why? Why aren't we working with the federal government saying, you know what? This open border policy that Joe Biden did is not sustainable. This is not sustainable for New York City. This is not sustainable for the taxpayer. This is not sustainable for these people. Someone, I think it was Joe Roscoe, he said it could have been that they used their government services and bought those medicines somewhere else and now we're selling. Could be that too. Look, it could be a lot of things. I just know we're spending billions of dollars to have these people here. And what is it doing? It's bringing down our overall quality of life. It's bringing down the safety of New York City. It's bringing it all down. And so I personally think that, and I'm not saying you go in there like the Gestapo and you start bringing people up and sending them overseas, but you do that. You're not going to round everybody up at once. It's not feasible. It's not logical. There's no way that could happen. But as you do that, as you continue to deport people and you have a secure border, then you continue to pull back on those services. And yes, you're able to clean that up while at the same time, you have the New York City Police Department focusing on illegal vending and carrying vendors in those neighborhoods. You have every precinct in New York City have a vending unit to get rid of it. Have train them in counterfeit trademark, train them in the vending laws. We used to have that lieutenant, the little bald guy, nasty guy. Can't remember his name. He was like he would teach the vending guy. I don't remember his name. He was a nut. I was in his class one day, and he's giving all these laws, and he's spewing them off the top of his head. And so I'm typing them in my notes in my phone so I could send them to my guys so we have them. And he's like, "What are you doing on your phone?" I'm like, "I'm writing down your stuff. I'm writing down what you're saying. You can't be on your phone." I was like, "All right, I guess I can't share this information that you're spewing out, my guys. No worry about it." And then afterwards, he tried to chew me out. I was like, "I'm literally on my phone writing it down." But the point is, is these are not impossible things to solve. We've done it before. We could do it again. These are issues that we've consistently faced in the past, including the illegal immigration. And we had competent responses to them, and now we have zero response to them. And so, like, I think all of the solutions in government are easy. But they're easy enough. Is it hard decisions that you have to make it easy? Yeah. You have to worry about the well-being of New York City. You have to worry about the well-being of your country, and you have to worry about the well-being of your residents. And you have to put New York City residents and American citizens first, especially law-abiding residents first. And until we do that, until we say, you know what, too bad that you can't conform to society, too bad that you decided to come here illegally, we can't take care of you. Until we start to do that, there's literally nothing we could do to fix this. There's absolutely nothing we could do to fix it. Until we have people in office who are competent, who are unafraid to tell the truth, none of this is going to go anywhere. So I personally, again, I think it's easy. I do.
Yeah, I think the first step would be, I agree, would be to start telling the truth, because the road to solving a problem is very difficult, and there are a lot of problems that Americans would face when we start heading down that road. Now, I think that road is coming, by the way, and I don't think it's coming because of us. I think it's already coming because of it. I don't think it's coming because necessarily from anything politicians are doing here. I think it's coming because China is bringing the road here, because the world is changing. And I've spoken about it before, how they're going their own way and there are consequences for that. So one of those consequences is that the can that we've been kicking down the road for decades is finally gonna have to be dealt with now. And this is so what I'm putting on the screen now is a picture of an article that talks about the 50 House Republicans that are pushing a de facto amnesty for illegal farm workers.
And let me guess, right. Nicole Maliotakis is one of them.
I didn't. There are a list of names. I didn't go through all the names on here, but
Mike Lawler, Nicole Maliotakis, all the Democrats that have an R in front of their name.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, because not only does the agricultural industry depend upon illegals, but keep in mind there are other industries that depend on it too, right? Agriculture depends. This is the estimates of the workforce that are legal, right? The estimates are 25 to 45% for agriculture. For building and maintenance, it's 17 to 19%. Construction, between 14 and 17%. Food preparation and hospitality, between 7 and 12%. Food processing, between 5 and 8%. So, as I said before, the economy depends upon cheap, illegal migrant labor. And I saw your comment, Steve. Steve 6819. This is what I'm referring to. The economy would literally collapse if we send all the illegals back home. This is why Trump himself has ordered ICE to target, to kind of slow down and to focus on the criminals. Okay, because again, if they started rounding up even the chalupa lady, right?
Who
The
does nothing
economy.
for the economy, by the way. If you
Well,
started rounding up the chalupa lady, that does
mhm.
absolutely zero for the economy. The chalupa lady does zero for our economy. She's actually a drain on our economy. Like, so when I'm talking about deportation, I'm not talking about going immediately after the farm workers. I'm not. I'm talking about right there, the criminals. You have people working illegally right on the streets of New York. And as you arrest them, they get deported. They do nothing for the economy. If we got rid of if we rounded up every vendor on every illegal vendor on New York City streets today, and we locked them all up, the economy would improve. And we shipped them back, the economy would improve. And by the way, our resources that we're giving them to live in this country, to clothe them, feed them, give them housing, we could start to reduce that too.
Well, keep in mind, like I've said before, the resources we give them, we're not really giving the illegals. Think of it, we're giving the
Yeah, we are.
corporation.
What do you mean?
Well, no, the
We have
illegals are
billions of
benefiting from
dollars.
it.
We have about $6 billion in New York City budget going
Mhm.
towards illegals right now to house
Uh,
them, for
mhm.
healthcare, for lawyers. Like, yeah, 100%. They're getting a lot of the services.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're helping the corporations. You're helping the law firms. You're helping the corporations who are providing the services for them. You're helping the shelters that are providing services for them. We're literally keeping up those industries afloat by that money. Sure, the illegals are benefiting from it, but that money, somebody has to provide the services, and those services are being provided for by the corporations, by the commercial real estate industry, which I've said before is being when the illegals were being pushed, especially then, were being kept afloat by the government money. If that government money was no longer there, those hotels would go bankrupt, those properties would default, and those areas would become, their property values in those areas would plummet also. And once those property values plummet, it's the tax revenue that also plummets from there. So
I don't agree with you at all, by the way. I don't agree with you at all that the New York City Hotel Owners Association and all these high-end hotels and all these high-end buildings will fall and crumble without giving them 3 times the going rate. They literally operated at a 40% occupancy rate forever. And now all of a sudden they have a 100% occupancy rate at 3 times the going rate. And we're not keeping them afloat. We're giving them generational wealth for their children, and it's being stolen from taxpayers. I don't agree at all.
Well, here's what I think. I think it's important. So, Marlon, you talked about tax revenue. So I think the tax revenue is a huge impact. So I think that's where I agree with you, John. I think that if you shut this down, it actually helps the economy. Why? Because there's a loss of tax revenue. So with all these illegal street vendors occupying the entire sidewalk, they're not paying taxes. So there's a loss of tax revenue. Where the taxes go, it goes to schools, it goes to streets, it goes to sanitation. So according to Zohran Mamdani, they want to tax the rich. But you want to tax the rich at the same token. With these open street markets, you're actually hurting the tax revenue because none of these people are actually paying taxes. So it's none of the money that's being garnered in these street vending operations is going towards sanitation. It's going towards sidewalks. It's not going towards schools. None of it. Because there's no tax revenue there. Now, where I do have to push back on you, John, I do agree that creating the problem is manufactured, and to create the problem is easy. But to actually fix that problem is a far different situation, right? Because one, we would need people that elected that actually care, that actually want to have this type of regulation to protect the public. So I think it would be far more difficult. It can be done, but I don't think it's easy. I mean, and usually, unfortunately, it comes by force. It comes by way of force. And that's something that people don't want to see, and that's the reality. So we go from something easy, we manufacture the problem, and then to stop that problem, I think it's a far more difficult path. Can it be done? Yes. But to say it's easy, one, we would need the politicians on board. We need to change legislation. We need the police department to fall in line. And unfortunately, it would have to be done by force, because at this point, it's just an epidemic. It's not isolated to one area of the city. It's spread throughout the entire city. And if there's an open air street market, there's also a market that's going on that we haven't seen yet behind closed doors. So I think it's a bigger problem. I think it can be done, but to say it's easy, I think it's a complete hurdle.
Yeah, well, I do. I think the solutions are easy. Like, here's my thing. I get what you're saying, Marlon. Like, everything's propped up. So, but what should we do then as a country? Should we keep everything propped up, keep lying, and wait till we ultimately collapse? Or should we start telling the truth and start to face the issues and start putting those easy solutions in there? Because I personally believe the solutions are easy. Oh, sorry, your hotel just started profiting 500 times higher than it was profiting for the last 20 years. Yeah, no, you could, I hope you save some of that money, but we're going to start to tail that back now. Sorry, you came in here illegally. You're on the streets in New York committing crimes, even though they're minor crimes. Sorry, I'm going to make the notification nice. Now, are we going to be, I mean, let's face it, even if we had that focus right now and we switched today, I mean, we gave you the numbers. We're talking 30, 40 years. We're talking 30, 40 years of like before we start to regulate. So there is going to be a completely cooling off period of all of these government resources and of what you're experiencing right now. I'm not saying it'll change overnight. I'm not saying it's easy and it's going to change overnight. What I'm saying is the solutions are easy. I mean, look, we do enforcement every day in New York City. We do enforcement every day across this country. We could enforce federal immigration law as well. We could enforce laws about illegal street vendors either. And I think what you're going to see is the majority of illegal street vendors have something in common. They're also all here illegally, and so like I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, there's not going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'm not going to say it's going to change overnight, because it absolutely is not. But what I'm saying is right now, all we're doing is embracing for the collapse. No, we got to keep doing this because we're going to embrace for the collapse. That's not a solution to my opinion. That is kicking the can down the road for future generations. And to me, again, I think this shit's easy. I think that our elected officials are morons. And like, there's two other topics that like I really didn't want to get into, but I think that it really plays in here a lot. And I think when we talk about the flooding and when we talk about the Legionnaires outbreak too, it all comes down to you elected morons. They put morons in charge. They're incompetent. They have no solutions. They can't even maintain the basic functions of this city. And we're expecting them to keep us afloat before the collapse. I'm not going down that road. I don't want to go down that road. If that's the road the country's going down, I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm going to start to look overseas for homes, for farmland, like in Europe or Greece. And I'll go live somewhere where I don't really see the government and there's no cops and there's no hospitals. When I get sick, I'll just drop dead. It is what it is.
But in a city of voter apathy, how do we change things, right? Because in a city of voter apathy, with a sanctuary city, it sounds great. But what's the adverse consequence for an illegal alien, a legal military-age male who's also an illegal street vendor? Unless we remove sanctuary city laws, what's the adverse consequence? Yeah, you can get locked up 100 times. We could do enforcement, but they're not actually doing any time. They're not paying any fines. Even if they actually get fines imposed on them, they're not paying them. So what's the adverse consequence? The only consequence that there's any fear of is deportation. So I agree. Deport illegal military-aged males that are out there as illegal street vendors. But until we get the politicians in place, they're actually going to stand by that. I mean, we actually voted Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani is the mayor. So it just trickles down. We still suffer from voter apathy. And that's why I say the problem is, yeah, it sounds great. I think, common sense people like us, our friends and listeners on the chat right now, we all want the same thing. We want to us, it makes sense. But until we get politicians in that makes sense, how do we change it in a city that suffers from voter apathy? It's slim to none. No, here we go.
Yeah. So this is the Roosevelt Hotel. We all know it was a shelter during, the Adams administration, right? Well, the Roosevelt Hotel currently owes 1 million in unpaid water bills, and 14.6 million in overdue property taxes right now, right? So even with all that money they were getting from the government, they are still going broke right now, and there are a couple
Because,
other properties too.
but because we sent money, them bad money. Why didn't we let them fall? Why did we give them millions and millions and millions of dollars and they never paid their bills? So it didn't keep us afloat. It didn't keep the economy. And I drove by the Roosevelt the other day. It's empty, sitting there
Yeah.
wasted.
No, it did keep the economy afloat.
It
I'll tell you
absolutely
why.
did not. It
I'll
absolutely
tell
did.
you why. What they are trying to do is kick the can down the road as much as they can, and it's desperate measures. What I think they made the wrong bet during the scamdemic, and the bet that they made was that the digital economy would have boomed right now and would have been able to fill in the gaps of things like property taxes. New York went all in on the scamdemic because New York City, if Wall Street has a boom, New York City benefits from the tax revenue from Wall Street. So I think that's one of the reasons why New York City went all in on the scamdemic, because the scamdemic was supposed to lead us to a digital dependency. And the infrastructure for the digital dependency would have included the AI data centers and all this stuff, which would have boomed Wall Street, and the city would have reaped the tax revenue from it. The problem is they made the wrong bet, and now they're going to have to deal with the consequences. Joe Roscoe, I'm sorry, brother, but a lot of these things go into very complicated topics that I'm trying to simplify as much as I can, but it's going to take some research on you, the viewer's part, to understand this. And you should, because a lot of what I'm talking about is going to affect your pension. Trust me on that. And the reason why I say they had to keep this thing afloat is because a lot of this is tied into the pension funds as well, because the pension funds are invested in securities tied to the debt of these properties. So if you let all of this thing now I don't know what the grand solution is to all of this, okay? But if you let all this real estate crash, somebody's gonna have to take the L, okay? And the solution might be easy, but who is willing to take the L? The real estate that runs this city doesn't want to take the L. The Wall Street doesn't want to take the L. The hedge funds don't want to take the L. The pension funds don't want to take the L. Somebody's going to have to take the L, because we've been leveraged on a lot of debt that has reached the end of its life, the end of the system, and everything is tied to it. We've built cities now exist on that debt because we don't build things in the city. So the tax revenue from real estate, the leverage of the securities tied to the buildings keeps cities afloat. And now as that system goes, you're seeing the effects everywhere. You're seeing the effects in being unable to hire cops because there's no money in the budget. You're seeing the even more dependency on illegals to be the workers in the hotels and all these other industries that Wall Street needs, like the delivery industry. So they imported a crap ton of illegals. So it's a very complicated problem, and I don't know how we get to a solution for it. And even though the solution it could be easy, the problem is somebody's gonna have to take the L. And is America prepared? Are these industries and people prepared to take those austerity cuts that would come out of this?
Now, Marlon, I agree that someone takes the L, right? The burden for the tax loss shifts all the time, but who does it shift to? And the reality is, just because someone has unpaid taxes doesn't mean that someone else is going to pay those taxes. So ultimately what happens is the city gets affected by it. The city gets affected by it. They have to make a decision on where they're going to borrow money from, what they're going to reduce, right? They're going to reduce funding for schools, reduce funding for the police. So I think it has major implications. The fact that Roosevelt Hotel doesn't pay their taxes has that one particular location. I think has major ramifications for the entire city, right? Especially the police force. And it's easy. It's an easy out for Zohran Mamdani to say, I have someone that has a burden of 14 million taxes, and now we have to cut spending on various locations. So the burden definitely shifts. Someone takes the L. Is that going to be another business? That's why it's so important. People who say, "Oh, I actually had someone tell me the other day, oh, we would have been better off with Eric Adams and Zohran Mamdani." I said, did you forget we had a corrupt administration? And with a corrupt administration, you get the Roosevelt Hotel. You get other locations like that have unpaid taxes and a corrupt administration because they're getting private contracts. So I think that the burden, not only does it shift, I think it creates ramifications, not for a short period of time. This has ramifications for years. And you're spot on. That's what people don't understand. The pension system ties into this. And I tried to explain that to people numerous times. And I'm so glad that you're up on that, because that has major implications also. So the entire economic wheel is affected by this. By one location, yes. 14.6 million. If this is, people want to treat it like it's a HELOC. Like this is a home equity line of credit. So the Roosevelt Hotel doesn't get an open line of credit, and you just don't have to pay their taxes, but yet we still give them credit because this is not amortization. It's not only that, it's not debt that's an asset. This is debt that's a liability. So spot on, Mullen. I agree.
I totally disagree.
Remember, 45%
totally
of
disagree.
Why is that?
Why? Because we spend hundreds of millions of dollars, probably even close to $1 billion. And what did we get in return? That didn't keep your pensions afloat. What did we get in return for spending almost $1 billion there? What did we get in return? You got a bill they still owe you $14 million. I'll tell you a lot of people got rich off of it. A lot of friends got rich. How that's keeping the economy afloat, I have absolutely no idea. If the Roosevelt Hotel would have fell 2 years ago, what the fuck is the difference? It's sitting there empty right now, owing us money. That it fell now. The difference is we would have had a few $100 million still in the bank. The difference is we wouldn't have all of these illegals sitting here around those areas. The difference is there would have been There would have been hundreds and hundreds of crimes that would have never happened. There would have been thousands of hospital visits from that hotel that would have never happened. There would have been so much stuff that never happened. The Roosevelt Hotel did not keep New York City afloat. Today is actual proof of it because it's not afloat right now, and New York City is still operating. So I don't understand this. Like, yeah, we got to just keep throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at bad things because this is going to keep the economy afloat somehow. It's honestly, it's a defeatist attitude. And it's saying, yeah, we're just waiting for everything to crash. And instead of so we got to stall the crash. So we just got to do all of this retarded shit, this stupid shit, and take billions and billions of dollars and throw it at things that we know are eventually going to crash the economy. I don't understand. I don't understand the point. I honestly don't. I don't understand. I don't understand the point.
Well, the thing is, Eric Adams, no politician wants it on their watch either, So this is why, like, every president kicks the can down the road. When the economy is bad, what do? They borrow money. Instead of letting companies fail, they bail out industries because no president wants the economic failure on their watch. So all they do, they keep trying to kick the can down the road. So it'll be the next guy's problem. So that's what essentially Eric Adams did. He didn't want it on his watch. And when the problems were smaller decades ago, that's what all the other mayors did too. They kicked the can down the road until the can keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And here we are. And
yeah, but I just got a question for you. You think that Eric Adams gives a fuck about the overall health of New York City financial? You think the long-term health of it? You think it even factored into his administration whatsoever? You don't think that they would just focus on enriching themselves and doing everything they could? And literally every contract was for sale. Most of the contract that New York City taxpayers paid for, they never even got the products or the services that they paid for. It was literally a criminal empire. It was a crime ring. Like, you think he's worried 20 years down the road? You think
definitely not.
You think he even has the brain or the wherewithal to understand any of what you're talking about?
I think he only cares about the money that goes in his pockets or his friends' pockets. But let me ask you this, honestly. I think on a long-term scale, I agree. The longevity, the city's capital is going to hold. But don't you think there's short-term effects? Let's say, for instance, the Roosevelt Hotel fell today and they turned it just into condos. You don't think that affects tourism? That affects the tax revenue for that area?
The Roosevelt Hotel is down right now. Right now, it's boarded up. There's nothing around it.
I understand what you're saying, but don't you think that has short-term effects? But in the long term, 10 years from now,
everything has effect. There's an effect to everything.
But that's not. But you weren't saying that before. You're saying absolutely has no effect on it at all. I'm sure
saying,
it has effects right now.
I'm saying that the city's not collapsing because of the Roosevelt Hotel, and the city's economy is not based upon the Roosevelt Hotel, which it's not. And today is clear proof of that. Sitting there empty, boarded up.
But it's based on commercial real estate. It's 45% of the city tax revenue. So if we let other places
and how much is what is the percentage the Roosevelt Hotel is responsible for commercial real estate? 0.0001%. How much of these illegals took over? What was the percentage of the hotels and commercial real estate that we housed illegals in? It wasn't even 1%.
I understand what you're saying. Maybe, yeah, we're talking about the Best Western or a Comfort Inn. We're talking about an iconic location in the entire city, which is part of the economic wheel of New York City. Yeah, if you're talking about some Best Western, Comfort down the corner, but we're talking about the Roosevelt Hotel. I think on the short term, I don't know if it's a year, 6 months, or 2 years. I think it does have short-term effects. It has effects on the tax revenue, has effects on tourism. I do think in the long term, yes, eventually it just scales out. But I think in the short term, it does.
Well, here's my question, right? We let the Roosevelt go default. What happens to the building? You're not turning.
We already let it. It's sitting there empty. What are we talking about?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's happening. But what I'm saying is it's happening now because they they made a bet in the past, right? That I told you about all the digital stuff, and it failed. It's failed, and they will have to deal with the consequences of it. Okay, which is
I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. All I know is that there was a lot of corruption and a lot of waste and a lot of unnecessary spending that went to the Roosevelt Hotel, and it failed anyway. So to me, the argument is like, no. It's like, okay, all right, so we should spend $100 million on failing hotels only to have them fail anyway 2 years later.
No, I don't think it was saying that. We're not saying to dump more money into it. That's why I said you can't treat it like it's a home equity line of credit. That's how they treat it. Like, all right, look, they owe so much in revenue. Let's keep giving them money. No, you got to stop the bleeding. That part I agree with you 100%. But what I'm saying, it does have short-term effects. Like I said, I don't know if it's 6 months or a year, but I do believe it has short-term effects. It's an iconic hotel. It's an iconic figure for tourism. Even though
everything has a short-term effect. How many buildings right now are actually solvent and they're going to have people in there, but right now they're doing construction? Of course it's going to have short-term effects on it. You know what I mean? Like we close buildings all the time in New York City and we open them back up. I mean, we even do public works that we do that with. Like I'm not saying there's no short-term effect. I'm saying that the Roosevelt Hotel, if us funding that, harmed the economy more than it ever helped it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, one other thing, right? If the Roosevelt defaults, it's probably going to happen, right? I don't see
happened.
Much way out of the.
It's already happened. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a way to solve this problem, but it deals with economics, and I'm not going to go into it here. But if that building defaults, what happens to it? It's not going to get turned into condos. It's hard to turn buildings that are built prior to 1970. That building was built in the 1920s to turn them into condos because the cost is just unfeasible. You have to gut the entire building and it just doesn't work. It's cheaper to tear down that building and build something new with it. Now the problem is if where that building is located, you tear down that building, what's going to happen to that area, right? You're essentially going to be shutting down parts of that area for months, if not years, considering it takes forever to build anything in the city anymore, right? So now you're shut down that building. That building isn't generating tax revenue, and the area is going to be hurt. So how many millions of dollars a day is that area going to be losing? We talked about the collapse of that building in the former Pfizer building a couple of weeks ago, right? And we talked about that area. If they have to tear down that building, which I think they're going to have to eventually anyway, that area loses $1 million a day, you know, and not just that, but a lot, people won't be able to enter certain buildings around it. And what that means is the property values of those buildings in the area are going to go down too. So, which means the city will be losing not only property taxes, but they're going to be losing revenue for that area too. So it's just a massive problem it's the solution might be easy, but the problem is short term. There's going to be a lot of losses from that, and a lot of people are going to be taking the L from that. And if people are ready to take
long term, we just keep funding the collapse, the impending.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the
what do you
politicians.
mean? There's nothing we could do.
No, there is a
pop everything up.
But don't you guys think also
solution that you could do to solve it? But it's hard to.
No, you and I both agree. But yeah. John, don't you see that? What about the local businesses in that area that depend on the hotel guests from the Roosevelt? Even though I know
right now, and we spend hundreds of millions of dollars, dude.
But you know, there are short-term effects. Let's say, for instance, what Marlon's proposing.
I never said there wasn't short-term effects. I'm saying, but let's say that the Roosevelt Hotel was not keeping New York City afloat.
If that building is torn down, we talk about the disruption of traffic, the amount of the quality of life while they're fixing that building. But those local businesses in that area may depend on those guests for those businesses to thrive. It's not. That's why I said it's different than a
well, I'll tell you. You know what else happened? But you know what else happened? We kept the Roosevelt Hotel afloat, even though we were spending billions of dollars there. We kept the Roosevelt Hotel afloat, and those local businesses, you know what they had to deal with? Thousands of scooters sitting outside of their businesses. They had to deal with crime, illegal vending right in front of the area.
I agree. That part I agree.
I guarantee that those businesses, and I will say there were businesses closed around, but they closed up before the Roosevelt Hotel went away, because when the Roosevelt Hotel was opening, they already shut those businesses down. Listen, the problem here is that, like, everything goes back to COVID, dude. Everything goes back to COVID. Everything goes back to COVID, bro.
It does. It does.
I'll agree with Marlon that they made a gamble on the city. I talked to a guy I worked with yesterday. And he's like, "Oh, I live in South Carolina or whatever." I was like, "South Carolina? I thought you would never leave in Long Island." He goes, "I was never leaving Long Island." And then COVID happened. And I was like, yeah, because if you would have talked to me pre-COVID, I was never leaving Staten Island. I would never leave anywhere else. I was like, nah, I love Staten Island. Why am I going to leave? Why am I going to leave Staten Island? I had no plans to go anywhere else, and so what happened is COVID shut down all these businesses, and you lost a lot of your tax base. You lost a lot of families. You said, no, we're going to bank on these transplants. We're going to hope they come here, even though most of them don't have kids. And we hope they're going to come here and stay here forever and not go back to Milwaukee or the Midwest or North Florida or wherever the fuck else they're from. We're going to bank on these people, not the people that have been here. We're going to put illegals, out-of-town residents, and criminals ahead of the New York City taxpayer. We're going to demonize the taxpayer. And how's it working out? And now they've moved on to, we're going to go after the billionaires. Like, oh, yeah, that's good. That's a good solution. We should probably do that. So here's the thing that I'm saying is, I'm saying everything's easy. The implementation obviously is going to be hard, but the solutions are not that hard. Like, yeah, there's going to be consequences. There's consequences for everything. We're going to have to answer up. I'm saying if we continue to kick the can down the road, all you're doing is getting the impending collapse that's going to happen. And the consequences of that are going to be much, much worse than if we just face issues head on. That's it. That's what I'm saying.
I got to give it to Tabitha Foster for the comment of the day, by the way. Tabitha, how you doing? She says, the Mamdani administration is so boring. Yeah, Eric Adams' administration was pretty exciting. Listed up by crumbs and the corrupt administration. But listen, you're right. John, I have to agree with you. Whether they tear it down or you have it, just comprised of illegal military-aged males, these businesses are still affected. But what I'm saying is both have the implications for short-term damage. And unfortunately, I think some of those businesses dealt with the crime. They dealt with those illegal military-aged males because that still was their source of revenue. So it's desperate measures for desperate times. So I understand. I agree.
What's that noise, dude? Is that me?
I don't know. Sounds like it. I hear like a
Yeah, not me.
Yeah, no, it's me.
Like
It's
the
me.
clock
The
or
volume,
something.
the
Your
volume
mic?
kicked on. It was me. The volume kicked on this video. But look, here's all I'm saying is like things are easy, dude. Look, I keep saying like, you know why the city floods? Because they don't do preventative maintenance on your sewer system.
100%.
Like it's not hard. It's like this isn't hard. Like the city's flooding every time it rains, and they're like embrace. Like, how about go clean out the catch basins like we used to do? How come we don't clean out the catch basins anymore? Oh, because you put morons in charge of the agency that don't know what anyone does. You demonize the people that did all the work, and now nobody gives a fuck. Look at this guy. Look how he solves the flooding on his street. He takes a broom and he just clears the top of the sewer off. That's all he does. And guess what happens? It's voila. Guess what? The water starts draining. Holy shit. Who could have ever seen that coming? The only reason it flooded in the first place is because we didn't put the work in to clean the catch basins. And right now, what's happening is honestly, and Marlon, I'm going to pick on you for a minute. It's the long term. There's nothing we could do. It's climate change. There's nothing we could do. The economy is going to fail. No, there's something you could do. Clean the fucking catch basins. There's something you could do. Stop the fucking corruption and the waste. Like, and that's all I'm saying. Right now, there's a huge Legionella outbreak right now. Julie Menon, New York City speaker, she puts out this article in the Post, basically ripping the Mondani administration. Meanwhile, every single year in New York City in the summertime, there are Legionella outbreaks. And they put in more legislation last year on the Eric Adams, because I think we had like 100 and something people that got killed from Legionella. Legionella stems and festers in cooling towers that are there. I think there's like 60 something of them on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They require, there's legal requirements to test them for Legionella and to clean them when you have any traces of them. Right now across New York City, and for the last 6 years since everything broke down, nobody does these cleanings. Nobody does these testings. And then the Legionella outbreaks come, and I don't know how anyone's shocked about it, because you should just expect it. It's summer's coming. No one cleaned the fucking cooling tower on the building. So guess what? We shouldn't drink that water. We shouldn't drink that water. We shouldn't do that, because guess what? You're going to get Legionella. And what happens? No, like it's just, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's because of Mondani. It's like, no, it's because you're all idiots. It's because you don't do the obvious. You don't do the easy things. You put this legislation. Now she's like, we're going to create more legislation. What does it matter? You didn't need the legislation you did last year. You just needed a competent government agency to oversee this. And you needed to hold people accountable that weren't doing the right thing, and you can't do it. So it's sick, dude. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing when we talk about the economy. If you're not willing to do the small fixes, you're just going to wait till people drop dead. That's it. And then you're going to complain about it. And then you're going to put legislation in. And at the end of the day, nothing gets fixed. And that is the problem in New York City. Incompetence and corruption.
I spoke about this on Monday about the catch basins. So ultimately, my firm belief is that the flooding that they have, it's not about even the infrastructure. It's clearly about maintenance. And if maintenance is actually done and there's actually oversight. So what's going on with these agencies right now? Just like the NYPD, you lost the veteran apparatus. You lost people with the knowledge. You lost people that know how the system works. So clearly they're not doing their maintenance. If this guy can clean a sewer drain with a broom, and that's all it took to stop the flooding, it just shows that we're not doing the proper level of maintenance. Because that's all it takes. This is not just a nor'easter or something catastrophic. This is just your average rain that's causing flooding because they're not doing maintenance. And there's over 150,000 catch basins in New York City. Those have to be properly maintained. So we can't blame it on climate, on climate change. It's clearly just maintenance. And so having people that actually know what they're doing and having actually people in leadership, not just NYPD, but other agencies like the DEP, and make sure that we have people in leadership that know what they're doing and not hired by DEI, and make sure that things are properly maintained, we wouldn't see disasters like this. And instead of spending money on how do we figure out how to reduce the police force to create all the civilian apparatus, make sure that we have people in charge that actually understand how the infrastructure works and proper maintenance for catch basins. Where are pumping systems? If the rain is so bad right now and all these issues, where are the pumping systems? There should be sub pumps put around the city, getting prepared for this. They don't see that. You don't need to change the pipes. You just need proper maintenance. And the infrastructure can handle this type of flooding. This is nothing out of the ordinary. So it's just a complete failure on this administration. Why we have more DEI hires? We don't have people in leadership that know what they're doing. We lost all these people from COVID that know what they're doing. It's not just the NYPD. It's all New York City agencies are suffering from it. And under Zohran Mamdani, we're more concerned about Benjamin Netanyahu than maintenance for flooding. If this guy can clean it with his broom, it's the most ridiculous thing. If that case, instead of hiring violence interrupters, why don't we just hire average citizens to walk around with brooms and clean our sewer caps? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You want to know something even funnier? I would bet you money right now. That there's millions of dollars in contracts for people to clean those catch basins. Like the city agencies can't even keep up with it for whatever reason.
I agree.
Whatever excuse they're going to give. Oh, because of COVID. Because of this. Because of that. No, because you're a fucking idiot. That's why. So now we have a contract that's, I guarantee, I don't know for a fact, but I guarantee if you look, there's a contract out there for someone to clean catch basins. And guess what they're not doing? They're not cleaning catch basins. But guess what they are doing? They're collecting fucking New York City tax money. That's what they're doing.
That, I agree with you. That, I think, is spot on. No doubt there's someone that doesn't even know where to report to. They have no idea where their job is, but they got the job. They're probably former NYPD going to collect a second pension.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about there. Where do I start? Well, the thing is, right? We're expecting Detroit to stop itself from plummeting. Detroit. There's a certain point after the riots of I think it was '67 that Detroit really saw a flight from that city, people leaving. And think how many decades it took for them to, they had to go through the crack wars where things got even worse. Okay. Before now there's finally starting to be a revitalization of that city. So what you're asking, John, is for Detroit to have woken up, in 1967. And that didn't happen. It took decades.
Because the elected fucking idiots, and they put idiots in charge of the city, and they bankrupted the fucking city, and everybody placated them. And that is why. And corruption festered, and a lot of people got rich. And then guess what? They left fucking Detroit, and they live down in Florida in sunny Palm Beach in a fucking big mansion.
Well, yeah. Well, that is part of it. But I'm saying that the people... See, I think that there's things politicians can do. Yes, there absolutely are. Okay? Like I said on Monday, Mamdani can stop furthering the problems that we have. Okay, but he's going to need help from the federal government to solve a lot of problems, and he's going to need to be very bluntly honest with the public. But I'm not saying that it's a defeatism. I'm saying that there are things that the individual can do to kind of insulate themselves from the problems of the city right now, and they should be doing. Okay, if you're a young person looking for a house, you're a fool if you're looking to buy a house in the city right now. Okay, and especially if you're looking to buy a city in the densely populated inner city parts of the city, right? You're a fool for doing it. Okay. I'm not saying for us to, and if you have a house already in the city and you've been here decades and you're not prepared to sell that house, sure, there are things you should be doing. You should be being more vocal about this. You shouldn't be electing morons or voting for morons, and you should be complaining to your city councilman. Okay, there should be a million finest unfiltered on the internet right now talking about all this stuff.
There's only one, baby. There's only one.
Well, yeah. There should be a lot more people speaking out about this. So there are things you can do, and the thing is, you're not the hardship is coming, but by speaking out and by trying to force politicians to wake up now, you're trying to at least mitigate it a little bit. But the hardship is going to come because, like I said, that the city has put, you've kicked the can down the road for decades, and if we're expecting a solution to take 10 years, that's not going to happen. Okay, it's probably going to take multiple decades for the city to get out of this problem, and we haven't even hit rock bottom yet. And so the solution isn't going to be overnight, and it's going to be hard, But there again, if everybody is aware of all of this, there are steps you can take to kind of insulate yourself from the larger problems of the city.
I'm just going to say this real quick before John turns to our sponsor. You're absolutely right. Detroit is a great example because no city is immune to ignoring their infrastructure. And if you ignore your infrastructure, you get damages. So that flooding, not only is that flooding happening, and yeah, it eventually goes down the drains, but it causes damage. And you're absolutely right. Detroit's a great example because what happened in Detroit, really what happened in Detroit, why the city went down, is because what John said, they went to Palm Beach, Florida. They left. So there was just a great escape. People left Detroit, so they lost their tax revenue. So if people leave New York City because Florida is a better place to live, that's where they should be worried. When people start leaving, that's when the city goes down. So I agree 100%. Detroit is a great example. And it just shows no city is immune. And Detroit was once a thriving city, right? And just look what it become. It takes decades to get some grip. It's getting a lot better. And it's you see new homes being built. It's always on different shows, but took a major hit. And one of those major hits is when people leave.
Yeah,
so, John,
and the federal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say the federal government hurt Detroit too, because especially when we started outsourcing, we basically took away the jobs from Detroit and that area, So Mamdani will need help from the federal government, okay? But also, earlier we mentioned how like keeping the Roosevelt afloat hurt the area because of migrant crime and all that. Well, government doesn't look at you as that. Government looks at that as acceptable losses, okay? Because again, the commercial real estate is 45% of the tax revenue of the city. So these guys are looked at much more like, they take priority over the concerns of you, the peasants in the city.
All right. Before we switch topics, let's get a word from our sponsor. So 2026 primaries are taking shape, and you can trade the biggest political races on Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade major primary election outcomes and the biggest political storylines as they happen. Will Gavin Newsom become the 2028 Democratic presidential nominee? Right now, Newsom advancing is currently trading at 19%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $502. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code FINEST to earn up to $500 when you trade $25. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk. It may not be suitable for all investors. Price, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. So, look, end of the day, I think it's a hard discussion. I think
it is. Yeah.
I think it's a hard discussion, but I also think, as much as, does he need help from the federal government? Yeah, he needs to stop fucking spending billions of dollars wastefully. And before you do that, you shouldn't ask anyone for fucking absolutely anything. Because I'll tell you right now, if I was the president of the United States, I'd be like, you got 6 months to clean this up or you're all getting fucking locked up. And I ain't going to give you a fucking thing, because absolutely not. Like they are throwing billions and billions of dollars towards malfeasance and corruption, and they're paying for unnecessary things right now. So no, you don't need help from the federal government. You need to clean up your own fucking house first, and then you could come to the federal government. And right now, that's not happening in New York City. Right now, corruption and incompetence is king. Until that cleans up, don't ask anybody for fucking anything. Don't ask me to clean a catch basin. Don't ask me for fucking anything when I'm throwing money and you're lighting it on fucking fire. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to lean into volunteerism like Eric Adams asked. No. Well, you and your stupid fucking friends are eating good and fucking got all these jobs that you're not even showing up to, and you don't even fucking do anything when you do, except harass women. So no, don't ask me for shit.
Don't be surprised when you see a shipment coming in with pallets of brooms for local residents and start sweeping their sewer caps.
City
coming.
paid
They're gonna
$50
start
for
asking
it,
people.
and Eric Adams and his buddies are selling $25 out the back door. Who gives a fuck? Nobody's paying for it anyway. They brought Goodfellas to New York City.
Yeah. Look, this is the comptroller's website, right? For NYC agency staffing. Look at environmental protection right now, right? These guys are supposed to clean the catch basins. 12% vacancy right now. 12.57% vacancy. So who's going to clean the catch basins? You might, you know.
No, they have a contract. Don't worry about it. They gave it to an MWB vendor. Nobody keeps tabs on them. They just submit bills and they get paid out, and we have no idea the work they did. There's no oversight on it. You know, almost like every other contract in New York City. So you know, don't worry.
I would put my money on it.
I guarantee they have a contract. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
I put my last dollar that there's a contract. There's no doubt about it. Because what's changed? What's changed? What's different than before? These are not even nor'easters. This is not even hurricanes. This is not even this is what do they call before a hurricane? I don't know, some type of, but not the term they use when it's not a complete hurricane. But,
tsunami?
No, not a tsunami. But tropical something. I forgot what it's called.
Tropical storm?
Tropical storm, yeah. It's not even a tropical storm. Either way, but to see flooding like this, I just think there's absolutely no maintenance. Like who's actually maintaining? Who works for these agencies anymore? Is there any oversight? It's just people sitting around collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, there's no oversight in these agencies. It's not like the NYPD where, you know, there's 1,000,001 units looking at you.
That's right.
These guys
let's make sure Marlon has his compost garbage. That's what's really important. Let's make sure you put out your compost garbage, but let's not check the catch bases. Let's not make sure that there's actually probably. I mean, Marlon, I'm sure the sub pumps all around your neighborhood, right? I haven't seen one damn sub pump in New York City. Nothing.
Dude, I'm telling you, like I said before, that I think Hochul wants people to leave the city. And like I said, I mentioned before, she's developing upstate. I think she wants people to leave New York City and move upstate because she needs the people, she needs the workers upstate. And I honestly think if New York City loses 3 million people right now, 3 billion people right now, that is how we go about fixing things. So,
but based on the tax revenue, are you going upstate?
Excuse me? Wait. You think that people need to leave for them to fix it?
Yeah,
you're going to that's absolutely failure of the New York City. It collapses. The only people you're keeping are the drainers. You're not keeping anyone that earns. You're not keeping anyone that produces. You're losing all those people, and you're keeping all the people that eat the tax revenue. Absolutely not. So you would literally collapse the economy.
I don't even see that.
You'll never fix it without.
I don't even see that pathway, Marlon. Because if you're leaving New York City, are you going upstate with the tax base in New York State, or are you going downstate? You going to North Carolina, South Carolina, going to Florida? I don't see these people going to New York State.
Yeah, that's a problem for New York State. But if the upstate keeps building, then there are some people who will move upstate just to stay in New York State.
Yeah, cops that can't survive it in the city. They have to go to Middletown. They have to go to Orange County.
They'll drive 5 hours each way to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can't have these three. The current population of New York City, the revenue that we have coming in now cannot support it.
So it's simple. Stop the fucking corruption and the waste. Like I don't understand why we can't do that.
Even if you do that, it's still not going to do work. It's still not going to work because remember,
bullshit.
He needed close to nine and change billion from Hochul this year. He needs add another $6 billion on top of that $9 billion.
There's $100 billion right now going towards absolutely nothing, and he needs $9 billion. No problem. Here, and we got a $90 billion surplus after that. Like this ain't fucking hard, bro. This is not rocket science. This is just math. Like
it would help. It would help, but the problem is even bigger than that.
So 90 billion wouldn't help.
Those cities in New York State are failing. I mean, Buffalo needs major upgrades. Niagara Falls, dump. Rochester. I mean, those cities upstate are just failing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't see anybody going up there. Like I said, you see.
All right, let's switch the topics because we're not going to agree on this at all because I am just so far away that. But Jack Sanders says, watch the poor patrol cops be responsible for cleaning the storm drains with their sector. Storm drains that Honestly,
Yeah.
dude, you want to laugh? That it'll fall on the desk officer and the patrol cop. You're 100% right. That they do that for everything, dude. I wouldn't be shocked. Now, I don't know that this happened, and I don't talk to anyone in building maintenance because they're all scared shit. But if I did, I wouldn't be shocked if when that building collapsed, they didn't call building maintenance in New York and NYPD and be like, "What could you guys do for this building?" Like, what? What? Nothing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
Because
Well,
they've
somehow
done
it
shit
always
like
felt-
that. Like,
look.
oh, there's flooding in the street. What do you guys could do? Like, we're not fucking DEP. Have the city clean the storm drains. Have the fucking sewer pipes broken. Have them fix the sewer pipe. Oh, could you guys do it? It's like, no, we don't have that in our budget. We have a $5 million budget. Like, that storm drain's going to cost $20 million. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, this
But
I blame.
this shit that happens in New York City because you're led by fucking morons.
This I blame on the history of the NYPD. It's always been
and then
that
like
way.
it's like no, we need to get rid of all the workers. Like what, dude? Like come on, it's fucking come on.
Listen, and
Stop the
believe me,
corruption.
John. It starts. When it comes to this, it starts with Ray Kelly. When Ray Kelly was the commissioner, even back then, he decided that cops should respond to all carbon monoxide alarms. Like, if you respond to a carbon monoxide alarm, what do you do? But they put everything on the lap of the NYPD police officer. Everything. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Look, they're already being asked to be sanitation now with the quality of life Q teams, right? If there's dumping, who you gonna call? The Q teams. Call the Q teams. Yeah.
Yeah. Next, every patrol car in the NYPD is gonna have to have a broom in the back. You're gonna have to have a broom. You're gonna have a manual sub pump, and when there's flooding, break out that broom and the sub pump. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, a pressure washer.
You can have a ball gag and a sub pump. You're gonna be.
Nah, just get building maintenance on it. We'll be all right. Don't worry about it.
John, were you cleaning catch basins in building maintenance?
No, but I'm telling you, they would ask stupid shit like that. When you had guys like Shell who thought they were fucking home and garden, like, yeah, I just want to get my office painted again fresh for the next 6 months, when you had guys like that, you're like, dude, like we're fucking trying to keep 180 buildings operating 24/7 days a week. They're all falling apart. The infrastructure is falling apart. They're over 100 years old. This guy's worried about fucking putting floral paintings on his fucking thing or hanging up his stupid fucking awards that he didn't deserve. It's like you can't fucking put a nail in the wall, bro. And then the guy shits all over building maintenance. I'm like, you fucking call every day of the week like a little Mary, and then you're gonna shit all over these guys. Meanwhile, there's like 5 cops that work there, and they're all specialized. They either drive like crazy trucks that no one has a license for, or they do crazy shit like welding and shit where we can't get anybody. Oh, fucking
George H3298. George H3298, spot on. He says they'll write it into traffic plan A. LOL. Yeah.
Yeah.
Traffic plan A, B, and C.
Hysterical. All right. So this happened when we were on the air on Monday. We actually missed it. So this was ex-military Andrew Arabaka. They're saying that this was an anti-ICE attack. He rolls up, looks like an EDP. He's been out at a lot of these anti-ICE protests. He's been out at a lot of protests other than that, this dude, Andrew Arabaka. And he rolls up and he's got like a little car, and in it he has like a stop ICE sign, and he's got some fireworks that he lights on fire, and then he has an airsoft gun. So he lights the fireworks on fire in front of 26 Fed Plaza with his little cart that has the stop ICE, and then he starts firing his airsoft pellet gun at the building. He makes statements to the federal government after, basically saying that he didn't care if he hurt anybody or killed anyone. Seems like a really emotionally disturbed, obviously left-wing nut that was inspired somehow either online or by your local elected officials. So, and probably more than likely, if you look into it, probably is the recipient of a lot of your tax dollars. So this occurred, a lot of stuff coming out about this. And I think honestly, you got no one to blame. There's a lot of mentally sick individuals out there in the world. Some of them are even in this chat right now. And, you get them being literally inspired by elected officials to, go after, like they think they're going to take matters in their own hand. How lighting fireworks on fire in front of 26 Fed Plaza and rolling up with an airsoft rifle is going to stop ICE from doing their lawful duty and deporting people that are here illegally. I have no idea, but Andrew obviously thought that was a good idea. So I don't think we did too well training him in the military either. So I mean, there's just a lot of issues that happened here. Like, what do you guys think about this?
Well, listen, I tell you this honestly. I know it sounds a little sick and crazy, but I think that the politicians on both sides, left and right, actually love stuff like this because it gives them a platform. It gives the Democrats an opportunity to say, look what's happening. People are frustrated with this. And it gives the right to say, hey, we're going to put ICE even more enforcement and put them out there. And they have to wear masks and show that, hey, listen, we're getting so much opposition. So I think both sides like this. I think it's, first of all, yeah. Listen, do I think that he not properly trained by the military? There are nuts in the military, just like the police force anywhere else. But here's someone that thought he wants to take it into his own hands. I agree. But I just think that both sides enjoy the fruits that come out of this because it gives them both a platform. So I think both sides right now, I'm frustrated with both sides. I don't think any of them really want to condemn this. I think downright it helps and it motivates their plan because let's be honest. ICE is out there and in their enforcement, they still lack the training. We say it often. They just don't have the same step as a local police municipality. The NYPD should be at the forefront. ICE should be there as assistants in any city. So I blame both sides. The politicians on both sides just get the blame. I think so.
Yeah. I said online. There's another video of what this guy did at a anti-ICE protest in Brooklyn. And supposedly he also slashed a guy's tire, and you could see him getting collared. I'll play it after this, John. I'll put it on now. I'll show you. So this happened last year, right?
Normal.
Yeah. We don't need the sound for it.
Mostly peaceful.
But he does shout. He calls him he calls him the N-word a couple times, right? The EDP calls that guy the N-word a couple times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's clearly unhinged, right?
So this is Andrew in the green hat right here with the sign. Yeah, he looks totally insane. Is that a Luigi hat from Mario? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it is.
It looks like
a
little guy.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I was sure this guy was in the military. What branch of service was he in? Oh my god.
This guy's only a few inches taller than me. He looks like he's about 5'4".
He could have been a sniper, Eric. That guy is awesome for covert operations.
What branch of service? Are we sure he was in the military? Wasn't a merchant?
Yeah, he was in the army. I forget what they said he did. He was like a mechanic or something.
Oh god.
I think he looks like he was like coming out of the tunnels. Like he lives in the tunnels.
John, you and him could go back to back. See who's taller.
But there he is getting arrested for stabbing someone's tires. Like, it's so like. But look, I hear what you're saying about both sides, but like, look, come on, left-wing violence, like there's so much of it, and 100%. It's been inspired by the left. I don't think that the right has done anything to quell it, but I think, I gotta say, like, there are left-wing politicians that are literally incite. What they accuse Trump of doing on January 6th, they do every single day, and they've been doing it for like a decade. And I'm like, and this is the result of it, That's why I try to keep tensions cool here on the Finance Unfiltered, because we got a lot of people in the chat right now that have potential.
John, you know what I'd like to know is what connections he has to the left wing. Because if you remember, that green hat to me is very significant. During COVID, what's that?
That's a Luigi hat, bro.
No, but besides being a Luigi hat, color.
It's like those are like those dudes. Most of those dudes were like what Eric's talking about is like they had guys with either lime green or yellow vests.
They were the monitors
during all of the protests, and what they were there was to like document everything, the people that were getting arrested. They would take down all our names and our badge numbers. They were real. I would say they were like instigators too. Like, oh, let me get your business card, all this bullshit. I was like, they were there to document everything. They had something written on them. Like some of them would have like legal, some shit on it. Like they had their own legal department.
Do you think it's John? Do you think it's and Marlon? Do you think it's a coincidence that during COVID they had those lime green hats? Yes, it looks like a Luigi hat, but it's the exact same color. So to me, I definitely want to explore that and look into it. I think it's way too coincidental that we have left-wing nuts out there, and he happens to have that lime green hat. Because I was there during the riots, and I had those people approaching me with those green hats, and that's exactly what they were doing. They were just agitating the situation, making it far worse. And they were actually telling people, go, go, go. When we were actually trying to shut down that riot in the Bronx, they were actually trying to push people forward and documenting all the information. They were, I call them the hall monitors, and they would just so. To me, I don't believe in coincidences. The fact is a lime green hat, I'm quite skeptical.
Yeah, I wonder if it's some sort of reference to Mao, the hats that Mao would wear or Castro would wear, those military hats, Or in this case, I wonder if the guy's hat is some reference to Luigi Mangione, because we know the left has been trying to make him like a rallying cry.
Good point.
Or a martyr.
Good point.
So could be.
There could be some subliminal, messaging going on with that, or some sort of messaging between them going on with that hat. But I agree with what Eric said though. I think government knows who all the wackos are, and I said this online. But I think it's more advantageous of them to let those wackos keep going on and keep menacing society and keep being a problem for society. So then later on, these politicians could come in with some proposal that for your safety, right? Which involves the loss of your freedoms and will also enrich their buddies on Wall Street, because those are the guys who are going to be building the tech for it. The tech that helps provide that illusion of safety, And I'm referencing things like 9/11. You see the aftermath of it, and the kind of surveillance state we're in, and you see how government, since this pandemic again, government seems to be pushing more and more surveillance onto us for our safety, of course. So I think government knows who all these guys are, and here's another reason why I think government knows who all these guys are, because this guy was arrested at a protest. Do you think Intel didn't get his information? Because I'm pretty sure that his arrest was forwarded up to Intel, or the Intel was, the Intel bosses sat in on the daily briefing to the PC or to the higher ups where this guy's arrest was mentioned to them. So they knew him. And if they didn't already have a case on him, when he was arrested, they should have had one on him when his name was brought up as being arrested at the protest with a knife, at those morning briefs. So this is what I say.
They know who all these guys are.
Yeah,
they know who, none of these guys are new. Like we could name them. I mean, they've been out there since we were cops, like at the protest. Like none of these guys are new. Everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows they're getting funded by taxpayer money through a third party, and everyone refuses to look into it. So it's I just want to give this segment to Juju though, because he says, name one left-wing politician who has a side of violence. I'll do you one better, brother. Here, this one's for you, Juju.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men most of them radicalized right, to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You get the point. So
this message is sponsored by Juju.
yeah. So name one left-wing politician as incites violence. Juju, you can name all of them on that video. All right. Thanks, bro. So I think this does have an effect on people like that. I do. One, because they're funding them. Two, because they're supervising them. Three, because they're radicalizing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you see how the left and the right play into each other here? The left encourages you to take action, right? And then the right says, okay, we need to protect you, so you're gonna have to surrender this right, you know? I think when I see things like this, like what's going on, I just think it's all like it's, you know, maybe I'm cynical, but it's it all seems like one big WWE show to me, you know. And I said this morning about Mamdani. Mamdani came out with a video yesterday where he's like, again, with the whole Netanyahu should be arrested BS. And I'm like, why is Netanyahu, why is Mamdani leaning into this when the State Department just basically called him like a left-wing radical a day before, right? They called him a left-wing radical, and now here he is leaning into being leaning into what they're saying about him. Like, stuff like this just infuriates me, you know. It's like all one big show, you know, and none of them care about any of us being the cannon fodder, you know, or being the acceptable losses in the chaos.
You know, this is the video you're talking about, complete with dramatic background music, where he basically says that. And look, here's the thing, though, right? Like I read that report on Cuba. It's about 100 pages. I don't disagree with anything they said, other than the fact is they make a distinction between Democratic Socialists and the Democratic Party. And so, you know, I don't blame people for being cynical about all the stuff that's happening, but I also think that people haven't been privy to what the hell's been happening in this country for a very long time. I think the Republicans are feckless, and I think the Democrats are literally evil, like literally evil. They're evil, evil people. So I don't blame people that get disgusted on both sides and then are just like cynical about the entire situation. This is Mamdani after that report. The report comes out by the State Department. The report doesn't say that Mamdani and the DSA are like agents of Cuba or they're working with Cuba, but I would say that there's enough evidence that not Mamdani specifically, but the DSA as a whole actually does get some training from Cuba. And what it says, though, it says that they've been a significant vehicle to promote the Cubans' worldview of government, which is a communist point of view, which is anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, and anti-United States foreign policy. And I'm like, yeah, I don't disagree with anything that's said there, other than the fact that you just described the Democratic Party. The only difference between an old school Democrat and a Democratic Socialist is the old school Democrats support Israel and the Democratic Socialists support Palestine. That is it. On every other issue, they're aligned: economy, public safety, anything else you go down the line on. So I don't see much of a difference when we talk about what they're actually in charge of, and especially a local politician like Zohran Mamdani, like why he's weighing in on international politics. I have absolutely no clue. I think I think it really crosses the line, and I think I think any competent federal government would really step in, because he could create an international issue over this, and I don't think that they're gonna. And so this is the video. This is Zohran Mamdani.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, the architect of a horrific genocide against the Palestinian people. He is responsible for the killing of more than 73,000 people, for the maiming of tens of thousands of children as those who survive undergo amputation without anesthesia, for the targeting of neonatal hospitals and maternity care centers, denying newborns even the chance to live, for the countless people he starved as he blocked food and humanitarian aid from reaching them, for the gunning down of hundreds of aid workers and journalists. And just last month, the UN confirmed that Palestinian children continue to be deliberately targeted and killed by Israeli armed forces, more than 8 months after the so-called ceasefire. The list goes on and on, all as we, as Americans, pay for the bombs that do the killing. There is a reason the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for his arrest. As human beings, we have spent generations building a shared understanding that there are crimes so grave they offend all of humanity. Anyone with their eyes, with their heart, with their conscience should recognize the devastation he has wrought and understand that he belongs before a court of law. As I've said, I agree with the ICC that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested and tried for his crimes, as I do for anyone else charged by the ICC. My administration has reviewed every avenue available under applicable law to determine whether New York City could execute the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant if Benjamin Netanyahu came here. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority to enforce this warrant. The federal government, however, does, and I call on them to join the ICC and execute this warrant. And I want to be equally clear. Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City, nor is any other war criminal at large. While we cannot end the genocide on our own, we can decide whether our silence will become another weapon, and we can examine every tool we have to defend the humanity and dignity of all people. That is my commitment to you.
I'd like to know who does his eyebrows. I mean, they purposely had one more up than the other one. It's pretty interesting, right? You see the eyebrow going up? You gotta laugh. He's a clown, dude. He's Eric Adams was a character, but this guy is a clown. He's a character too, in his own way. What's interesting, John and Marlon, I took a glance at that report about Cuba and the Democrats. Marlon, after you directed our attention to it, so shout out to you, brother. Spot on. And what's interesting about it talks about how, Cuba always had a big propaganda campaign, and that's how they push communism. But with the Democratic Socialists, that they don't even need a campaign, that they're doing it for them. And John kind of alluded to it. They've kind of been a vessel for it. But if they've done their own propaganda, that Cuba doesn't even need to have propaganda to persuade the Americans to do it. They're doing it on their own. So it's interesting. I mean, you got to look at this picture. I mean, look at that eyebrow. It's just it looks like it's almost like stitched on. I don't know if he went to Turkey and had his eyebrows done a specific way, but so he could actually have a facial expression. Because honestly, being a cop for almost 20 years, we all know it. You could see right through people, and I just see emptiness. Like this face is almost like drawn on, because it's just it's almost like, who is this guy? I mean, who is he really? Does he actually believe the stuff that he's putting out there? It's just nonsense. Well, what do you think, brother?
I think he's an actor, bro. He's an actor.
He's an actor, right?
Yeah. All these politicians we're getting now are actors. They're puppets, and the real people who are running things are behind the scenes. We've already said that he's an empty vessel. This kid is he's a spoiled kid who spent his 20s, attached to mom, hoping, getting his job from mom. Okay. Now he's finally a big boy, and he has to be mayor. Okay. And he isn't mayor, because I'm pretty sure that all the real policy, even this bullshit, is coming from people like Dean Fullahan. Okay, this guy you're watching is an actor, and keep in mind he was an entertainer before, or he was trying to get into Hollywood, being a rapper and all the BS that he was doing. Okay, and when I see this, I think of wrestling again. Okay, he's leaning into that heel role that he has now. And in wrestling, the villainous, the villain or the antagonist who generates crowd anger and boos, he's the heel. Okay, the heel is there to help the baby face get over with the crowd, because the baby face needs a enemy that the crowd really hates. Okay, and right now he's leaning into that heel role, because think of it, he puts himself in that video, and it looks almost like a dictator at his table, talking to the people. Okay, I mean, why would you do that after that report comes out, where the State Department, and they allude to the Cuba being, to the DSA being the basically being the attached to Cuba. Okay, for better words. Okay, what you're seeing on screen now is one of the passages in that report about the DSA. Okay, and here's another one where they said where they talk about the DSA sending delegations to Cuba. Right, here's the problem. My problem with all this this is all WWE. My problem with this is, okay, you have a problem with the DSA sending people to Cuba. Well, who okayed their flights to Cuba? What, there's no consequences for getting a flight to Cuba? I can't get a flight to Cuba directly now. Okay, it's not that easy to go take a plane to Cuba. So if government in 2025, October 2025, is the same government that we have running this country now, right? If they had a problem with that, then why wasn't there consequences then? Okay, this is all bullshit WWE politics. Okay, and you're seeing Mamdani lean into his role, because I think they need a villain. Republicans need a villain, and just because Mamdani has a D attached to his name doesn't mean he's not part of the same uniparty as the Republicans. Okay. So
look, I'll agree to a point that a lot of things are theater, but like, these people are absolute radicals. Like, there's like the left, the Democrats in this country are radical politicians. They've been looking to subvert this economy forever. Now, are there Republicans that are part of that one world government? Yeah, the overwhelming majority of them are aligned with this, and communism is creeping into this country 1000%. But was put in that report was very accurate. Like, so I'm not saying that everything that is there is. I mean, you look at this guy's buddies, like Hassan Piker, and I think Hassan's like the nephew of. I think he's the nephew of the Young Turks guy, whatever his name is. So he's another guy put up on the stage, right? Here he is with the mayor, right? This is Hassan Piker. He's the socialist influencer, right? He's like the left-wing influencer. He's like their Benny Johnson, you want to say, right? Like the opposite of Benny Johnson. They both look the same. They both look like they experimented with each other in college. But they're just opposite ends of the spectrum. But this is like, if you look at his background when he's podcasting, this is what he has in his background, right? He has this. You see what that is? Could you see that? That is a New York Times report. Hold on, I'll bring it up. That is this. He has it framed. He has 9/11 framed in his background. That is a radical. On the heels when we had the biggest mass murder in this country, and I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care if you're like, we don't know the truth of it. We do know the truth of it. The truth is a lie. Whatever end of the spectrum you are in on it, doesn't really matter to me. It was the biggest mass murder that we've ever had on American soil. People lost their lives. Every single one of us was affected by 9/11. Every single one of us that were cops, firefighters, lived in New York City, whatever profession you were in, grew up in New York City, you were affected by 9/11. And this motherfucker is hanging out with the mayor and he's celebrating the mass murder of Americans on his fucking wall. Like, these people are radicals. They should be treated as villains because they are. And honestly, a lot of our politicians should be treated as villains because they fucking are. You know, and we're just sitting there like, oh, there's nothing we could do. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. You know, and that's always the knock with everything I say. The people are like, why do you talk about this shit? Why do you care? There's nothing we could do. And I'm like, that's where we're significantly different, is I think that things could be done. I, unlike many people in this world, think that there are things that we could do to right this ship. And I think we could actually live up to the dream that is America. And then there are people that don't. Nah, I'm just going to get my pension, sail off the sunset, never think about this, and not worry about nothing. You know, don't worry about it. And I don't think that. I don't. And I think that they can have their kayfabe and they can have their fucking theater all they want because we're allowing them to have that theater instead of calling them out for what they right in front of them. You can't clean the fucking catch basins. You can't fucking stop Legionella. You can't police the streets. You can't regulate illegal business. You can only regulate legal business. You can't regulate criminals. You can only regulate people who actually follow the law. And you're sitting there talking about Benjamin Netanyahu that you're going to lock him up. And the fact of the matter is September is coming. September is right around the block. And he's saying that Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City. I got news for you, people. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he comes into New York City in September for the United Nations, he is going to be treated like royalty when he comes in, like everyone else that comes in for the United States General Assembly. And New York City is going to spend a lot of money to protect him, and he's going to be protected by the NYPD. So Zohran Mamdani, I agree, is full of shit, but Zohran Mamdani and his friends are also radical leftists who control the Democratic Party, by the way.
This is interesting. Listen, first of all, I despise the Young Turks, and he's the nephew of Cenk Uygur, who is, you know, I mean, his viewpoint, if you listen to him, has changed many times about Israel, but right now, presently, he's completely anti-Israel government, anti-politics, and so his nephew having that picture behind him is just completely disrespectful. That's why I can't believe we got to this point. I mean, we lived through 9/11. We're living now. For the kids that voted for Zohran Mamdani, it's history to them. It's how disrespectful that we actually voted for Zohran Mamdani, and for people that are actually in his circle that despise America. And no matter what, and that's a great point, John. Spot on, brother. I agree. No matter what your thoughts are on, if you're a conspiracy theorist or you think it happened to the letter of the T, the way it was described during 9/11, the bottom line is those people were murdered no matter what. And we should pay homage to them and support them. I never thought we would get to this point. I mean, think about it. How in a short amount of time, the reality is it's only 25 years. But in 25 years, how much has changed? A 25-year-old kid today that was born right after 9/11, it's just history to him or her and never lived through it. And that's why it's important. People say never forget, right? Never forget. But what about properly teach and preach to your kids what happened in 9/11, that these people were murdered and it reshaped, and the way that we live today is because of the results of 9/11. And it reshaped the entire country. It reshaped the ideals. Not only did it reshape the country, it reshaped the entire world. So, yeah, that's complete radicalism, John. I agree. To have that in your background is just completely disrespectful. And to me, that's saying fuck you to everybody. That's exactly what it's saying.
Yeah.
Fuck you, and this is what we agree with.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, how about I put a picture of fucking Palestinians getting blown up in my background? Like, I would never do that. I'm not going to celebrate. I'm not celebrating the death of anybody. You know, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's why, listen, people like Cenk Uygur is absolutely disgusting and shouldn't even have a platform. Just completely anti-Israel. And I'm sure behind closed doors, he's a complete radicalist himself. This is his nephew we're talking about. So where these ideals come from, and these kids are 25 years old right now who lived past who were born right after 9/11. And that's why I say it's so important. People say, oh, never forget, never forget. But how about we also teach our kids what happened, to understand that these people were murdered. Many of us, John, Marlon, and myself, knew people in that building that were killed, that lost their lives, or at least knew someone that was touched by it. We were all touched by it. How do we get to this point? How do we get to this point that we have Zohran Mamdani as the mayor of New York City? It's absolutely disgusting. He is a radicalist, in my opinion. Not just a left-wing nut, but in my opinion, he is a Muslim extremist. There's no doubt about it. Not all Muslims are Islamic extremists, but all Islamic extremists are Muslim. And Zohran Mamdani fits that to a T.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's a Muslim extremist. I wouldn't say that. I think he's a left-wing extremist. You know,
But that's
I
kind
don't
of saying
think
like,
there's any-
but not to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but that's kind of the discussion we had the other day about directionalist. I think he may be both. Sorry about that, but I understand what you're saying as being left-wing, but I think he does have some Muslim radical ideals. Don't you think so?
Well, I don't think there's anything Muslim about him, because I think that's just again, I think it's the Democrat Party has hierarchies of victimhood, and you have to, by saying I'm Muslim, that puts him in that hierarchy, you know, and it gets people to gloss over the fact that he's a rich kid, you know, a spoiled rich kid, and you know, just to quickly go back to this report here, this is the report from the State Department that I'm posting up on the screen, and you guys could go see it too if you go to their Twitter, you know, and read it too. It's a good read. You should read it. There's a lot of history spoken in there. But again, I don't understand, because, you know, we've already pointed out for a fact that Mamdani, his parents are connected. His mother is connected to Epstein and that whole network. And who's also connected to that whole network of Epstein? Well, a lot of people in the federal government, right? So what are we talking about here? You know, it's like, again, it's like it's like the WWE, right? That the DSA and people like Mamdani exist because I think we let them exist, and because the DSA exists because the Republicans let them exist. You know, because again, it's good to keep for keeping everybody, you know, clinging to their tribes and pushing everybody to the tribes rather than looking deeper into the issues. You know, and let me remind you guys again that this is a page from a book called Airlift to America, and in it mentions how Mahmoud Mamdani came over here via Air America. Well, I'm not sure the name was Air America, but it's basically the same thing. He was airlifted here by the Central Intelligence Agency. You know, so again, if the government has a problem with Mamdani, then do something about it. Okay, do something about it. You call them radicals, okay? Why do you okay them to go to Cuba? Okay, we know they're radicals and we know they're morons. Okay, and they're spoiled kids. So let's investigate who's funding all these protesters and all these agitators. Let's lock these people up. Let's find out where the money is coming from, because all that money isn't coming from Cuba. Okay, we've already talked about it. There's some of that funding is coming from Goldman Sachs itself. Okay, to those Palestinian protesters. So why aren't we doing that? Instead, we want to complain about the issue, but we don't want to solve the issue. And we want to complain about the issue because we can use that to change the shape of this country. And I think Republicans, just as much as the DSA, want to change this country, except they want neo-feudalism, whereas the Democrats want socialism, want Soviet-style socialism here. You know.
Well, Mom, don't you agree? I mean, I agree. The devil's in the details, right? So I like to listen to specific words that people say, and I think it tells you the whole picture. So we agree that we think Zohran Mamdani is an actor. We don't even know if he's actually a Democrat or a socialist or what he is, because he's such an actor. And I believe that part, but I believe where he's not acting, I believe he is a Muslim radicalist. I'm not saying that he has to be Muslim, but you could identify with those radicalism ideas. Why? Because he's said specifically that he wants to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. He didn't say that I have also pulled up these other politicians who will be attending the UN who probably do have ICC warrants also. If we comb through, so the fact that he mentioned Benjamin Netanyahu and that he has an ICC warrant and is exploring that idea, and even though he knows he can't arrest him, but just to say it so that people listen to, to hold on to these radical ideas. And the fact that that nephew has that picture in the background, it's almost as bad if someone had a SWAT sticker in the background. So I do think there's radical ideas, and I don't think it's just left wing. I think it's Muslim extremists.
I think there's an overlap between Marxism and Muslim extremism, but I think he's kind of like a Venn diagram, right? That's what I'm showing on screen. Venn diagram. I think there's an overlap.
And you could put the Nazi Party in there too, by the way.
Yeah, he's right.
But I think he's more on the left side, you know, because I just don't see this. I just don't think he's a real Muslim. Okay. Because I don't think a real Muslim would support a lot of the things he's supporting.
John has a point. The Nazi Party was started off of left-wing politics also. So it turned into something.
Sure.
So there is an overlap there. So you could put the Nazi somewhere right in the middle. And so could you put Zohar Mamdani's ideals?
They try to consistently, everyone tries to make like Nazism is a right-wing ideology, and it absolutely is not. It's a left-wing, top-down government control ideology. If you went too far to the right, it's a complete breakdown of government whatsoever. It's complete libertarian point of view. You go too far to the right, you don't get the Nazis. When you go to the left, that's when you get the Nazis or you get the Stalins. Hitler just couldn't get in with the Nazi party, so he reinvented it as the fascists. It's like, you know, that's another thing that these kids are taught that is just wrong. I never accepted that ever. I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like that is left-wing ideology. Let's move on to the next topic because we're running out of time here and we only got a few minutes left. 2 hours, 5 in. We're going to do a hard out at like, try to get out here 2:15, 2:20, something like that. So this just comes out. We talked about it last week. I told you that Kaz Daughtry was getting a big job. And here it is. Homeland with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, government agency. Big news this week. We swore in Kaz Daughtry as our new regional director for Region 2, covering New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the United States Virgin Islands. From cyber to chemical security, he'll be leading the charge to keep communities safe across the region. Welcome aboard, Kaz. So, you know, we covered him in depth at points, and there were numerous lawsuits and corruption allegations around Kaz Daughtry, as well as the fact he can't testify in federal court or in city court in New York City. He's had more than questionable decisions. He was basically handed the rank of detective and then handed the rank of deputy commissioner. Real no supervisory experience. Belittled the cops beneath him. Tom Donilon mentions a lot of that in his lawsuit, how inexperienced he was and how poorly he treated his subordinates. And now he's been given, you know, and at the time, if you remember, he was a big Kamala, big Joe Biden guy. Big Kamala, big Joe Biden guy, right? And now all of a sudden he's a right-wing Trump guy. You know, all of a sudden he's the Trump administration, he's the poster boy for the Trump administration. And I think, you know, DEI plays a part here. And I think that diversity, equity, inclusion plays a part in this appointment. I also think the fact he didn't earn it plays a part in this appointment. And I think it's just more cronyism and nepotism, which has kept Kaz going, because now he's been given a job that is one of the most coveted positions for any professionals in the cybersecurity industry in the entire nation. And he has literally zero experience in cybersecurity. So don't tell me DEI is dead, because it's obviously alive and well here. Looking forward to hearing the numerous stories that are going to come out from this agency. And, you know, and like, hey, look, there's a lot of investigation still ongoing, and I won't be shocked if they get really embarrassed with this one. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's DEI on this one. I think it's cronyism. I think he's hooked up with, in particular, with some rich guys from Israel. And those rich guys are, if I look deep enough, I'm sure they're going to be connected to cybersecurity and infrastructure. So I think he knows the right people, and they're hooking him up again.
Well, it's still DEI. He didn't earn it.
Yeah. Well, in that respect,
he didn't earn it, and he's a blackface. Like, I'm sorry, I think it's DEI twice.
Yeah. I don't think he's dead because he's a blackface. I think that in that part of DEI, he's he's definitely underqualified for that. But you know, he knew the right people.
Woefully underqualified. He was woefully underqualified in his positions in the New York City Police Department. But you could argue that there are a lot of people here in this cybersecurity field. you're going to have a hard time finding what you find in the New York City Police Department. This is like a whole new level of woefully underqualified.
True.
Well, first of all, I think it's political patronage. I think it's cronyism and nepotism that got Kaz Daughtry rocket fuel promotions and also got him a rocket fuel position such as this. So is DEI part of it? Maybe a little bit, but I think mostly it's about nepotism, cronyism. I think that he knows where the bodies are buried, figuratively speaking. I think he knows all the skeletons in the closet, and they got Kaz Daughtry this job. And what I think is ironic about this is this picture is perfect. Here is Kaz Daughtry taking an oath to the federal government. Meanwhile, he pled guilty in the NYPD for intentionally lying and with misleading statements. So I think what's interesting is apparently integrity is no longer a thing in the federal government, because how could he now take an oath to the federal government and he already pled guilty and his integrity has already been compromised? So I think this is just complete. It's absolutely just a slap in the face to everyone. It's a joke. He has zero experience in this field. He had zero experience in leadership. He's clearly not prepared, but it just shows you our federal government just went down the tubes. But it just shows you how powerful. And maybe Tariq Shepard was right that cronyism and nepotism and your networking connections really could supersede your life. And Kaz Daughtry is the pure example of that. I mean, look at this. Look at this position he's in. I think this picture is so iconic. Here he is standing there taking the oath. He doesn't even know what that oath means because he already pled guilty for giving misleading statements. So apparently, as I said before, moral integrity is no longer a thing in the federal government. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's just a joke. It's honestly, we're all being slapped in the face here with this promotion.
Well, look. Here, I got all these. Like, I can't tell you. Like, I probably had like 150 text messages since this came out. People like so upset, and I'm like, dude, there's nothing for you to be upset about. Like, this is the way the world works. Like, honestly, when I look at this photo, it's like it's a very motivating photo. There are motivating figures in my life. The two most motivating are Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio, and now Kaz Daughtry is. I have three. Because I'm like, if this guy could just keep landing these jobs, there is nothing that is impossible to me. There is nothing that I can't achieve in this world. And that's literally how you have to look at it. Like, you can't be upset about it. It's how the world works. It is what it is. He played the game. He got in. You know, I played an interview a while back with Tariq Shepard, Tend the Hands Tariq on there, who's now under federal scrutiny and whose home was recently raided. And he was saying, look, don't be mad at me because I moved and I networked. You didn't network. I networked. You were out there actually doing the job and being a cop. You didn't get into the network. So I rose past you because you were the idiot. And like, unfortunately, what he was saying is true. He's like, I knew how to play the game and you didn't know how to play the game. Right. And now what he did while he was playing the game obviously didn't work out too well for him. So obviously he wasn't too good at playing the game either. He played the game to get him to the positions. But Kaz keeps riding to the top without even having a background or a qualification for it. And you shouldn't be upset about it. It is what it is. This is the world. And you should know that anything's possible. Don't look at him and say, oh, well, I don't have this and it should be me. How could it be him and not me? Well, then, you know what? It could be you because it was him. So take motivation from it. You know what I'm saying? That's it. And, Jack Sanders says Kaz couldn't run a yard sale. I would agree with that. And Dan the Man says, John, you could seriously run for president. Just look at the competition. 100%. I agree with that statement. Like, we all sit here and we doubt ourselves, and you have absolute morons, incompetent people at the highest levels of government running this country, running this city, running our agencies. And don't doubt yourself. Take motivation and go forth with it. You know, that's it.
Yeah, listen, I'm not hating on them and saying like, oh, I wish it was me. I don't see any jealousy or envious by any of us. But what we're saying here is the obvious, that it's absolutely ridiculous and how strong nepotism and cronyism is. But I do think there's more to this also. I do think that he knows, as I said before, figuratively speaking, where the bodies are buried. With all these federal indictments, with the Eric Adams administration, I think Kaz Daughtry knows a lot of information. I mean, he was Madry's right-hand man. Pretty much, he was almost like Madry's son. And some people say they believe that Madry is his son. So I don't know the truth to that. But I think he knows a lot of information. I think they had to prop him up. I think he's got, as I said before, he knows where the bodies are buried, figuratively speaking. He knows a lot. So could he also be an informant? I don't know. That's very possible too.
I think these are all symptoms of a spoiled, overindulgent West, and we've gotten so, we the West has been winning and America's been winning for so long that, we've created we've now built up a society on cronyism and connections rather than skill, And I think when you see things like this is the byproducts of it. This is where we are. And how exactly do we compete with China in the next couple of decades? I don't know. Because when you see people who are incompetent being elevated to those positions, think of it for a second. How many times the government keeps claiming that it's China hacking us, right? So now we're going to put people who don't know anything about that in these positions. Well, good luck. Good luck with that. Okay, that's going to help us out real well against China. And remember what I said before, guys.
But the embroidery game steps up there immediately in the budget, steps up immediately in that. So you got to think of the benefits there. Embroidery lives on.
He's gonna have Homeland Security shirts now, cybersecurity.
Well, remember what I said before, guys. Tell your kids to learn Mandarin. Yeah, when you see that, you should be like, I gotta bring my kid to Mandarin classes, okay? Because we ain't winning with buffoonery like this going on.
Yeah. By the way, Leo Fearpin. I heard that rumor too. I don't know if there's any truth. Supposedly, Marjorie was hooking up with Kaz's mom, and that's the rumor. Who knows if there's any truth to it? But I mean, they did have a very significant, close relationship. He took him early on in his career. I think there is something to it. Why else would he just take him under his wing like that? What was so special about Kaz Daughtry? But
could have been his uncle, could have been his nephew.
Something, yeah. There's definitely a relation there. I don't know what it is.
Whatever. There was something there. Who cares? Whatever it is.
No doubt about it.
But all right, let's get to the super chats and run out of here because we're out of time.
One quick thing, John. Billy disagrees with me. He says, Billy says, Bond doesn't know what he's talking about. China's world is renowned for corruption. Yeah, Billy, it is. They are corrupt.
Let's not get into China. Let's start wrapping up. Nobody cares, dude.
Yeah. No, all I'm saying is go visit over there and then come back to New York City and then tell me. Talk to me. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Super chats. Finest 25. Hi, all my brothers. Been away a while, dealing with 9/11 health issues. Thank goodness all is well. Now looking forward to rejoin the best team to uncover the theater of the absurd, aka the NYPD and the city politics. Appreciate you, brother. Those of you guys that haven't, go check out Homicide New York. It's just season 2 dropped on Netflix. A lot of good dudes on there. Big shout out to Pete Panuccio. We should probably have Pete on one day soon, but there was a couple of good shows on there. So I think they had 4 episodes so far. Check that show out. It was pretty good. So I hope everything's well. They actually did an episode on 9/11 specifically. So definitely check that out. Just stories about where they all were, all the investigators. Real squad based, real homicide based, but a great show. So check that out on Netflix. We did this one already, but I'll do it again. This is coming from Jack Sanders. Watch the poor patrol cops become responsible for cleaning the storm drains within their sectors. Storm drain stat. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. And then last one, Anthony says, Marlon was on the dark web last night. He's really going down a lot of rabbit holes this morning, respectfully. Like I said, Marlon, in my opinion, is black-pilled. Black-pilled with Marlon Bethel.
Yeah.
That could be its own podcast right there. Hey, thank you for the coffee and donuts, brother.
You're only black-pilled when you're not prepared for what's coming ahead. I've openly bet on what's coming ahead. Okay. So
listen, there's no doubt about it that China is technologically advanced. I mean, beyond light years beyond what we are at. And I spent time in Asia, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's definitely a real threat. And people like Kaz Daughtry are at the upper echelon in the feds and with cybersecurity. Yeah, we should be worried. There's no doubt about it. because they're already hacked into the system already. So it's only the pathway is only going to get even easier. So thanks to Cash Daughtry. By the way, how was that oath? Did you even understand it?
Yeah.
Did you take that oath too?
Yeah, good point. Right.
Yeah. I think I honestly, you got to laugh that he's taking an oath to the U.S. Constitution, and he pled, and you take an oath when you're in the police force. He pled to misleading statements, and as John said before, he can't even testify in an open court, for especially federal. So it's laughable,
dude. And he's named in dozens and dozens of lawsuits that could come back and embarrass everybody. It's ridiculous, dude. Whatever. Who cares?
So I'm sure, and what's interesting, I'm sure they're still indemnified. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. Yeah. No, that's the other thing. 100%. We should definitely get into that on Friday. Like, are they still indemnified on a lot of things? And I think you're going to find out that Marjorie is still indemnified on a lot of cases. But just last thing, we had another 28-year-old cop, NYPD cop, commit suicide. I'm not going to blast his name out, but there's reporting nowhere about it because, again, the NYPD has a major control over the media. I haven't spoke to the individual's family, so I don't feel comfortable putting the name out there. But 28-year-old, promising future ahead, life cut short by suicides. We talked about it last week. It's okay to not feel okay. It's not okay to not say something. I'm not saying to rush out to the job, but if that's your last resort, do it. Tell somebody what the hell's going on. There is no reason for you to commit suicide, 28 years old, with your whole life in front of you. The NYPD could just be a job for you. It's a career for some people, could just be a job for you. It could be a 10-year career for you. It could be an 18-year career for you. It could be a 30-year career for you. There is not a reason to lose your life over it. So I just, prayers for his family are horrible. Absolutely horrible. So anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, listen, I just want to say every time we hear about suicide, whether it's veterans or law enforcement, it touches us all. I mean, 22 veterans commit suicide a day. Law enforcement is not too far behind that, especially with New York City. I often say, I'm going to continue to say, it's the internal pressures of the NYPD that really hit the psyche. So if you're having mental health issues and you're in the NYPD, there are outlets out there, and it's not the only job in the world. For some people, let's be honest, if it's not for you or just the way that law enforcement is going right now, and you don't be afraid to leave. I know it's for sometimes guys. I speak to cops on a constant basis every day, and they feel helpless and they feel trapped. There's a whole world out there. So don't let that stay in that box, and don't be afraid. So here's another coffee and donuts. Thank you, Detective Nolan. $20. President of the United States Fraud Task Force is approaching New York City. Expect more raids in the coming months. Yeah, we'll keep tuned. Thank you. I actually spoke to Detective Nolan yesterday. I had a great conversation. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. So here we are, 2 hours and 22 minutes into it. Thank you, friends and listeners. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, check us out. Stay for the ride. Shows usually go from 2 to 3 hours, but they go pretty quick. It's a lot of information, a lot of content, stuff you're not going to hear. Definitely different points of view, real perspective, truths and facts, and compared to politics. So Maul and John, thank you as always, brothers. I appreciate it. Let's close out the day.
Ron and Rob are on tonight. Make sure you guys don't miss that. Executive Perspective. That'll be at 5:05 p.m., 17:05 military time. They're going to be discussing the NYPD's new retirement home age, where they're letting elderly senior citizens, people who are half 100, now join the NYPD. So it should be interesting. So make sure you join us tonight. Check that out. And there you go. NYPD senior citizen. So that'll be from the executive perspective tonight. Check that out. And I mean, I got nothing else. There was a lot. Look, there's a lot we didn't discuss, as always. I mean, there's just so much, so many videos. But I think it was a good conversation. I think it was a good debate on politics, and I don't think you're hearing these issues get brought up anywhere else. And so again, just prayers to the family out there, and for anybody going through anything right now with the job, like, it is what it is. Don't kill yourself over it. It is absolutely not worth it. This too shall pass. It's true. I've been through a lot of downs in my life, and I've came out through all of them. This too shall pass. It's not your time. It's just not your time to go. So
yeah, don't give the city a win. When you kill, if you decide to go that route, you're giving the city a win. That's what they want you to do. Okay. The worst thing you could do is to improve your life, get better. If you're unhappy here, you move on and find something else. But the worst thing you could do is go down that route, because you're giving them what they want, and that's the win. Don't give them the win. Okay. So thank you guys for joining us today, and stay safe and have a good day, and we'll see you on Friday.
That's right. That's right. We'll see you on Friday. And you know what? I do find it interesting, just last thing before we leave, with these cops that are going to get on the job close to 50. I would love to go back just to take these tests, just to show we can pass. I wouldn't want to do the job, just take all the tests and just walk out the door. But just to show them that we still got testosterone. So with that being said, thank you, everybody. We appreciate our friends and listeners here, keeping the conversation going. We have a lot of people that, you're here with us constantly. So we really appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. So we extreme gratification for staying for the ride with us. So let's keep growing together. Thank you.
All right, people. Find us on Build-It. We'll be back at you Friday morning. All right. Out of here.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?